All right, guys, let's just let more people come up. If you guys are speaking, just request again. I'll let you up again. There's Luke.
Hey, I'll give people a second before I start answering, but thanks for doing that, Tandy.
Yeah, no problem. Let's see. So who was Judge was just making a point, or is
Yeah,
he?
did Dream have his hand raised? Definitely get Dream up. I don't know if Judge want. I want Judge up so that I'm not like responding and he can't say anything. Um, but yeah, definitely. Imagine if this was just the ultimate rug pull by me and Plunge. We get the really difficult question, and then I go for it. I delete Twitter. I'm gone. No, I actually don't think it's a really difficult question. I think it's just a difficult question for me in my position to speak on, because like how can I say? Like, look, I don't want to ever. You guys, if you guys saw me on like Flowfest, for example, I'm going to use a different project. I'm not going to talk about Top Shot, but like me and Luke would be talking about. We were doing a Discord stages sort of every morning talking about different projects, and Luke would be like, "Yeah, I'm gonna." And like LG can, he should do that in the first minute. He was talking about what he was buying. I never did. I literally didn't buy a single project throughout the drop. Yes, I missed out on Ballers. Yes, I wanted to buy some. I'm upset, but I wanted to make sure that no one who was listening to me in the Flowverse Discord was like, wow, Luke's buying that. It must be going to go up in value. I can trust in him. So it's very different with Top Shot, of course, but it's the same thing where I'm never going to say, hey, it's definitely going to be fine in X amount of time. Just hold on, just buy in, whatever. Because I don't want people to make financial decisions based on my opinion, because it is only my opinion. So I feel like I'm saying that. I feel like everyone I can see who's listening, they get that. But there's going to be some people who might never met me before. They might not be familiar, and they might be like, Luke's just pumping the Top Shot bags. That is not what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to have an open conversation about what I believe in as a platform that might it might mean something about the values, but I'm not talking about them. So to Judge's point, he's right. It's been a little bit of a rough 10 months if you got in 10 months ago. However, like you cannot deny, in my opinion, that it's changed a lot. Like 10 months ago, withdrawals were slow. The site had a lot of maintenance issues. Ironic that we're maintenance today, but my point is it used to be every other day. There was so many problems. There was bad actors on the system. There was people that were blatantly taking advantage of some of the loopholes and multi-accounting and all this like not okay stuff that we tackled. We tackled it pretty hard and aggressively. And that was before I joined the team. But even as I joined the team, I could see the results of that. And we built the infrastructure. I don't know if any of you in the NLL, we had Andrew, who's the SRE. So he does like a load of site reliability engineering work. And he spoke at length about the amount of time and effort they put into the back end of Top Shot, which it doesn't mean every patch up is amazing, but it means that what we've built is the foundation to be built on further and further. And so like I appreciate that if you're just a collector, you haven't seen that, but I guarantee you that is going on. In terms of what you have seen though, like I do think we've rolled out some new features and we've done some pretty cool and exciting stuff. And I don't think there's a marketplace in terms of like the usability and the ease of use like Top Shot in the NFT space. So when we go back to the growth question, as we next, or not next, but as we expect in the next X amount of months to see more collectors join, they're going to join with a marketplace that is smooth, it is easy, and it's built to handle that growth because we spend a lot of time on the infrastructure. Doesn't necessarily resolve the point that Judge is making, that it's a frustrating experience, but hopefully it explains why I'm talking about the long term, because Top Shot isn't built to be a, hey, this drops in January and then it's done in March. This was released in 2020 to the world, and it's going to be here till 20 whatever, like the 22nd century. I don't know, probably long past my time, because that's what they're building.
Yeah, and I think that's valid, and I think that the points about the website being much improved and all the back end being smoother and it being a much just a in general much smoother, beautiful. I mean, it's onboarding people into the NFT space in an incredible way that you don't even know you're buying NFTs. I mean, that was even back in February for me. So I don't think Judge and Judge can speak for himself after this, but I think the point that people like Judge are making is that ¿por qué no los dos? Like, why not both? That Dora the Explorer meme. I think that, and I think there is some of that happening. I think when we hear that S3 is all about airdrops and things like that, and hold on to your sets, and kind of like a little bit of be careful when you're lending out things from your completed sets because this is the airdrop. This is airdrop season. I think that kind of thing, which I suppose you could almost relate it to staking and NFT, or not even staking, but just holding. And especially now that we see things like completed sets, and it shows you how long you've completed it. and things like that. It's starting, and this is all speculation on my end, of course, but it's starting to give that kind of a feel, which is if you are faithful and if you hold on to your sets and you stay in the ecosystem and you stay engaged, then you will see some reward. And I think that's where a lot of people who are frustrated, I feel like that's where they're coming from. It's like, yeah, we love that the site is better. We love that it's, we're not getting the marketplace down for 8 hours at a time like it was in February. But there's also a lot of frustration, just purely economic related, and wanting to feel like they're seen and wanting to feel like they can also be rewarded. So patience is tough, but this is the NFT space, and as long as we're going in that direction, then I think people will be a little bit happier.
I mean, I would just counter with this. I would say, and I would ask this to Luke. I would say, so what is your message to the people who have been on the platform for and all they've ever known is kind of this kind of pretty. They have a sour taste in their mouth, and they've had a mostly unpleasant experience, and they're now leaving. And again, these are the people. These people that are leaving now. These are the people that we desperately want because they love basketball and they want to collect, and they're struggling to find reasons to stay. And I think that just we have a kind of a very inequitable marketplace based on when you joined. And I think when we have like an AMA and Roham leads off the AMA, and he said, and the first question he takes is basically addressing, you know what we're going to do on the platform, guys? We're going to reward legendary set holders with airdrops, and we're gonna do whatever we can to reward those people. And I mean, that's like 20 people. We have a 99.9% of the user base that would never be able to complete a legendary set, right? And we have just a lot of people that, and again, I didn't get in this for the money. I didn't I got in because I love hoops. And I love to collect, right? And I think that's we do have a lot of people like that, and those are the people that we are turning away because their 10-month experience on this has been pretty rough. And I'm curious on your thoughts, what you would say to those people, and just going forward to get them to say, and look, we're now 25% of the NBA season is gone, right? And like we're not, in my opinion, we're not asking for much as a community. Like you guys launched the Flash challenges, and that was great because that was the first time you're tying real life basketball into what's happening in the marketplace, right? And people lost their minds. This was so great, but like, why are things like that taking so long to kind of come up with? Like that's like, in my opinion, that should have been something that we could have got at the beginning of S3 already from day one. So it just seems like a lot of this stuff is taking a lot longer than we expected. And in the meantime, we're in a precarious spot because people are leaving.
Okay. So multiple points here. I'm going to come back to Flash Dance in a sec because I actually think that's a really good point that we can talk about. But like looking like Roham's AMA, for example, like I appreciate what you mean. Like, the first question chances is that definitely wasn't meant to be because that's the most important topic, but it's because they are things that we're like actively looking at and thinking about. And I get what you mean. Oh, but he's only talking to like people that hold in legendary sets, but that's not all our philosophy. It's just like that's a really easy example of something that Roham can say. We can do this. If we said we're going to drop an IO to everyone who's holding a base set or a common set, if Roham says that in his AMA, he needs to know, like, are we going to do that? Because that's a lot of people. Whereas when he's saying about a legendary, he can be more confident. So you have to keep that in mind when Roham speaks to the community. He is speaking candidly. He is saying like, yeah, like that's something I'm sure I can do. So he can't be like, he's not going to be like, here's everything we're considering, and we'll just one of them might happen because that's going to create more issue. But I appreciate what you mean. Where if the message has been lost there, what Roham is trying to say, in my opinion, I mean, I'm not going to put words in my boss's mouth, I'll get fired. But what Roham is trying to say is we're all rewarding collectors. And like one way to reward collectors is, hey, you're holding a legendary set, have an IO. Like that's one way. It's not the only way. I think the Infinite Objects went down really well with the Nine Lives Lounge, for example. I was kind of like, wow, people like this more than I thought. Like I thought people would like it, but they really enjoyed it. And so what we learned from that was like people like to be rewarded with an Infinite Object if they're holding a set. And then Roham's brought up another time when we might do that with a legendary set. It does not mean that's all we're going to do, and it does not mean we're not going to continue to learn and iterate. For example, another learning from the Nine Lives Lounge was people really enjoyed the exclusive Discord channel. Like, again, way more than I thought. It's like it's kind of quote unquote just a Discord channel, but it's become like its own hub of community, and that's really cool to see. So I think like all the time we do these things, they're not meant to be we're going to do this because we think this is amazing. We're going to do this because we don't need to anymore. It's we're going to do this. We're going to see how that is, how it goes down, how people feel about it, if it matches our expectations or exceeds them. And then we're going to learn from that process and iterate and improve. And that brings us to flash challenges. You're right that it would have been cool to have them start a series 3, but really we had flash challenges back at the end in the playoffs of the last series when it was the finals of the Bucks versus Suns. We were doing these very quick and short challenges, and I'm not saying they're the exact same. They are quite different because now we're doing it for all NBA games. But you can actually, if you go back, you can see we were doing collect players that have got top 8 assists or whatever, and that was the stepping stone to now have flash challenges all the time. And I'm not trying to be so that makes it okay that flash challenges have only just came out, but hopefully that gives people the ability to see they did it, they took the learners from that, they worked on it, and they found a way to do it again, which now feels kind of like you say, that came out of nowhere and everyone loved it. But to us, that was part of the process of iterating and improving. That takes a little bit of time and effort and a few experiments in the finals last season to then bring out in a way that we know is going to be a success. Does that make sense? So you can kind of see that, and you can see, okay, what they're doing now is a learning for what they're going to do in 3, 4, 5 months in the future, and they're going to iterate and they're going to make it better. And that's going to be something we continually do as a philosophy at Dapper Labs and Top Shot, in terms of learning from what we've done that's gone down well. And that means we're also learning from the things that haven't gone down well. We're also learning from those mistakes. But I don't know if there was anything you feel I didn't address there, mate.
I would just say the final thing, if you could just address, what would you say to the people whose, last 10 months, their only kind of experience is that they've taken a beating, right? And they've had a really unpleasant experience. And I know patience, we keep telling them patience, but at some point, they say enough. I keep whatever I buy, it just goes down. I'm out, and I'm going to do something else. So
yeah. I mean, look, the first thing I'd say, just taking off any sort of Top Shot, Dapper Labs role, whatever, just speaking as a person, do not ever put money into a platform, an NFT project, into whatever, if you're not, you're not comfortable with the swings that can happen. That's all I'd say. I'm not trying to make any big financial advice. I just want to leave with that, because it's always important to consider, Judge, obviously, as you're aware. Some of your listeners are going to be 19-year-olds at college, and they probably shouldn't be spending money on NFTs, but they're doing it anyway. They should be spending that money on food and beer. So, I definitely want to leave with that. But in terms of people that specifically have joined 10 months ago and have felt that they've only taken a beating for that whole time, we do hear that, we do see that. And I don't have specific advice that I'd want to give to that range of people, because I know there's people that joined 10 months ago and they're doing all right, or they joined 10 months ago and they've been actively trading, and they're trading in the challenges when they've happened and have done well there. And there's people that just I just want to buy and hold my set, and they're not, or my team, should I say, and they're not even selling the moments, but they're seeing the paper valuations go down, the on-paper valuations. And hey, look, I joined mid-January, and I saw those swings as well. And all I'd say to them is if you've been holding this long, I get it, it sucks, but don't worry about it if you're not planning to sell it. If you're holding it for the long term, I wouldn't be focused on the day-to-day short-term fluctuations. In the same way, if you're holding any sort of collectible, you're holding any NFT, if you look day-to-day, you're always going to be stressed out or frustrated. You're always going to be oh, it went up X percent and then dropped Y. I should have done it when it went up X. No, you can't think like that. You're never going to make all the right decisions. If you got into the platform back in January and February, like myself, you didn't do it because of what was available on the platform at the time. You did it because you saw what was being presented as a concept and as a project. And you were damn, that's pretty cool. I want to be a part of that. That's for me, at least, right? I don't think anything there has changed. It's just we're still waiting. Do you remember back in February and January, people were I can't wait till 2022 when they have Top Shot in arenas. I can't wait for that. I can't wait to go to a game and see a Top Shot banner. That would be amazing. Or I can't wait for collectors to get sent to games. That's what we were saying in January, and February, and March about 2023. And then about 2022, sorry. And then we saw that. We've now sent multiple occasions to games, to draft picks, to finals, etc. And we've done the Top Shot kiosk at Summer League. And we've said, hey, that was awesome. We're going to do it again. And my point is that back in February, March, that was seen as something that would be years, that were months to a year down the line. And it happened quicker than we expect. So I'm not saying hey, we've done everything we expected. I'm saying that it's easy right now to look back at expectations and kind of change what they were at the time, which I know is a very long and vague answer. And the reason I've done that is because asking me to address everyone who's been on the platform the last 10 months is asking me to address like a few 100,000 people, and that's really hard. So I'm trying to intentionally give an answer that hopefully people understand what I mean as a philosophy and as a concept rather than specifically to one individual. Does that make sense, Judge?
Yeah, and I'm fully aware it's not easy. It's not an easy question, right? So, yeah, I appreciate you taking the time to answer. I mean, I could go on and give a million follow-ups, but I'll give some other people some chance to talk a little bit as well.
Yeah, and I monologued a lot. And I guess if I was sum it up in one sentence, I would say just like, as a collector, ask yourself why you joined in January and February, and ask yourself if that's still a valid reason to be collecting now, and you make that decision yourself. I would not tell anyone, if you've been here since February, you should stay here. No, if the reasons you joined are no longer valid, then that's fair enough. But I think a lot of us will find, yeah, this is still a really innovative project that's got a big IP, it's got amazing stuff happening, and there's so much potential that we can all see and imagine.
I guess the last thing that I would just follow up with here, and then other people I want to give other people a chance to ask questions, because we got a lot of smart people up here. The last thing is in your opinion, because you only can probably speak for yourself. Do you think Top Shot is doing enough for the current user base? Like, I understand the current focus on getting the new users in. We've talked about it a lot in the spaces so far. But in your opinion, is Top Shot doing enough to focus on the current existing users and to make sure that their experience is a good one?
I think I actually have like a mixed answer. I think we are. I just don't think it's like loud or obvious enough. One example of that is like right now I'm literally, I'm like supposed to be in a meeting. I was like, no, the community are in a spaces. I'm going to jump in. I let the people in the meeting know. And there's no like, I know you got to come to this meeting. There's, yeah, you should be in there because the community is a priority. It doesn't always come through. I get that. But another example is we've scaled up our community team, we've scaled up the support team. Those people are directly responsible for being, the voices of and the voices to the established community. Look, I don't really worry about too much about new collectors because I worry about the people that are in the Discord. I worry about the people in the spaces right now, and I worry about the people on Twitter. That's where like my focus is. You know what I mean? So, but like that's not a tangible thing. Luke's hours is not a tangible thing. But we've hired RVG. We've hired this amazing guy called Marlo, who's like NBA nerd, like Jacob level. Like Jacob was impressed by his NBA knowledge, and this guy's like he's like still like in his early 20s, right? So I'm excited for the community to meet more of him. We've had this other guy, Zach, who you'll meet as well. He's like he makes my Discord knowledge look terrible. Like we're hiring this amazing talent on the community team, not because we want those people to go out and onboard new users. It's so that they can help when these situations where there's the spaces, they can come in and talk to you all. So I do think we are. I just don't think it's as tangibly visible as perhaps people were expecting it to be, or at least not yet, if that makes sense.
All right,
Yeah,
cool.
That does.
Cool. I want to let Sal speak because he's been patiently waiting. So go ahead, Sal.
Thank you. I'll just start with, I think everyone can agree that the website is much better than it was before, whether it's withdrawals, user experience. So, and the community-wide too, like everything's in place. I think the best thing you can do to help the community now is bring in more users. And it's just, it feels like everything's ready to go, but the cart is kind of ahead of the horse right now. Like, so what does it take to, when are we ready for the masses, basically? And can you unblock me from the official Twitter account? That's all.
Yeah, definitely DM me. I'll get him blocked from the Twitter account. Just be easy on the spicy memes. On the initial question, which I assume is probably the more important one for everyone else, unless everyone is just here to hear if Sal's going to get unblocked. I don't think it's as simple as like turning it on. Like personally, I think it's like what happened when we saw an explosion of growth last time was awesome, but is it what we want? And I know the initial answer, everyone right now is like, yeah, I want that. People probably like shouting at the screens or their phones like, yeah, Luke, we want that. That's what I call you Dumbo. I don't think it is, because the issue with an explosion of growth is it requires like an explosion of response, So like, I just think we want to be careful, like what we're talking about when we're saying, like new users joining the platform. Like, I feel, again, what is the reason we saw new users join in the last 6 to 8 months? It was word of mouth. It was people telling their friends. And I think when the current collector base feels, like they're being heard and that they're being listened to, that will be the same again, where they'll be telling their friends. And I'm not saying we have to rely on that, but I'm saying like that's going to happen anyway. Like, can you imagine a situation where this conversation right now, instead of being like, what can Top Shot do better, is instead, what can't Top Shot do better? Everything's amazing. And that's a hard situation to get to, but that's what I think new user growth will come from. It's just people telling their friends. It's that word of mouth. It's the like promoter aspect, right? But in terms of like as a controlled effort, as a focused effort from the team, it would be insane, in my opinion, to not think that that is a focus of like the marketing team. Like, look, we have like so many things going on at the moment. It can be hard to keep up. Like just this weekend, we had KD tweeting about Top Shot, tweeting about saying shouting out Spaced, and tweeting about the NLL, right? Like that's awesome, and that's like KD in the boardroom. We have a partnership with them, and you can kind of like read between the lines there, right? Like we have a partnership with the boardroom and KD. That's a massive name in NBA. That we didn't just do a partnership just to do a blog about it, but those things take time to build and flesh out. Like we had the fandom moments, which are literally like one player can talk about, hey, they can tell their followers, they can tell their fans, like you can get my moment if you sign up to Top Shot today. I think that's really cool. I think we're only at the start of exploring that, but I think this is a better way to market than simply trying to like get hundreds of thousands through the door at once, because it means the people we're bringing on, they're going to feel this connection to the player because they bought his moment, because he tweeted about it, or like not just that, but like they saw it talked about. Maybe they were at the game, maybe they watched the game, they loved that dunk, they loved that whatever layup, and they were like, all right, I'm going to go to Top Shot, I'm going to buy that as like hit this like fandom moment. That's incredible. And I think the people that are buying that moment are probably going to hold it for a really long time, and then we're going to have a collector base that isn't just joining the platform to just buy the moments, rip packs, and then flip them. They're joining the platform because they've built this connection, which is like stronger, I feel, but slower. If that makes sense. So
I get that, but another thing too is like I didn't join until March, so I wasn't here in January, February. But getting in a line and not being guaranteed a pack was a big thing. Like when the rush of getting that queue number, now it's like fresh threads. You get in the line 5 times, you can buy 5 packs. It's just not like any thought to like scaling down the number of available packs until we're ready to go to the masses, or it's just like that gambling aspect of it really triggers a lot of people. Just the rush of getting in the queue.
Yeah, I'm not going to comment on that sentence. I definitely don't want to give the impression that's what I'm in favor of. But I see where you're coming from. Look, and you guys all know I was a big time collector before. I remember those days where you were just like trying to refresh to get into the queue back before the team had the queue system, right? And you were refreshing. Like we had like me and my mates were all in cool in Discord being like, oh, it's just turned a minute. Let's refresh to get in. Like they were the crazy times. But I think if you look at the content roadmap for this series, like Rare and Legendary is still going to be like that. I'm a little bit worried that people have kind of forgot what it's like to join a queue, and you have to hope you get a good queue number, because the Rare and Legendaries drop that we have coming up in the I mean the content roadmap has like the better dates than I can remember off the top of my head. So please refer to that if you're not sure. But like when that happens, we're going to have these battling to get into the queue again, and people are going to hopefully really see the difference between a common pack and a rare pack in a way that's never been so clear, because the rares and legendaries are going to be hard to get and the commons are just going to be commonly available. And I appreciate that right now when we're only seeing common drops, that's not so clear, but I do think that will become more apparent and we'll have that same feeling again.
Hey, Luke.
Go on.
Hey, this is Poker Pro Eric, and again, I want to use a dumb poker analogy again. I think most poker tournaments around the world now, they pay like the top 12 or 15% of the field, right? That's kind of how you get paid, and it's exciting to get in the top 12, 15%. I feel that was not just the money, but the rush of poker getting that top thing. And now, imagine if poker tournaments pay 50, 60% of the field, it just wouldn't feel as special. And I guess that kind of feels to me is that I almost rather miss out on getting a pack than have the guarantee of getting a pack, or even you kept mentioning rares. The last rare I think I got was the NBA run it back rare, and the run it back, I believe I read somewhere, was like 97% of the people in PQ1 were able to get a run it back. I mean, 97% of the people just seemed really, really high.
Yeah, and again, that's because it's the common packs, right? That
was the run it back rare.
No, so that was the priority queue, though, wasn't it?
Well, if you're in all the queues, so 97%. So even though I got one, I didn't feel special. There was no like rush or adrenaline rush for me, because I was the same as everyone else. Where like when I win a poker tournament or even cash in a poker tournament, I'm excited. Where this is like, okay, well everyone cashed,
I mean, yeah, I hear you. I definitely wouldn't mind cashing 97% of the time, but I 100% understand what you mean. Yeah, no, and I think that's a really good analogy to point out. And I do think that like it's difficult when you use that example, because that was a sort of experimenting with the let's reward people that have a high enough collector score, where there's still the priority queue, but there's still a really good total chance. But I get what you mean.
Yeah, I don't think any of us knew it was that high. I think it was great to give it a higher chance. Obviously, if you had a higher collector score, which I'm high enough, and a lot of people in here are, but it just seemed like I think it was beyond even what we thought. It was like automatic, basically, for a rare.
Well, yeah,
Yeah,
the issue, but the issue with that pack drop again, like we were sold on the idea of having archive moments, right? Because not everyone was going to be able to get a rare run it backpack. Like, so that's why we needed all these archive moments. And that, in theory, that was a great concept, great idea. But what ended up happening, 97% of people in the priority queue got the rare run it backpack. 87% in priority queue 2 got rare run it backpacks. Over 25% in the general queue got rare run it backpacks. So basically, we get, again, this is a supply issue. It was too much, way too much supply of the rare run it backpacks. And then on top of that, we had a massive amount of the archive moments. So like these are kind of the things that go into some of the decision making that confuses all of us as collectors. Like we were sold on, we needed archive moments because we want to reward, we want rares to be rare. We don't, again, they're very hard to get. Well, in this case, the rares were not hard to get. Most people ended up getting them, and on top of that, we see this on the marketplace. Because we see the moments have not responded well. Like you can get a great rare run it back for under $100 now. So like these are kind of the things that we see as a user base, and we are perplexed and we don't really understand.
Yeah, Luke, I also, last thing to say, I miss the adrenaline rush of logging on at 11 a.m. Pacific time and trying to see my queue number, where now it's just like I log on and I know I'm going to be in the queue, at least as of now.
Yeah. Okay. So again, a few things. I want to just I hear all of that. So just give me I think it's all fair, and I think we should learn from that, right? Like it's like when I look at the playoff set we did for Series 2, we clearly saw that. We saw how people felt about it. And then when we went to Series 3, in the content roadmap, we've laid out the plans for the playoff, and it is a more rolled back set, right? So I think it's going to, I'm not saying it will, I don't know. To be clear, I have no idea about when the next run it back drop is, what the plans are. It's not my area, but I think it would be insane for us to not look at that and be like, what was good and what was bad? And I think Judge is right. We clearly should have reassessed what was going on with our communications leading up to it. And I think it's always a hard thing to balance because we started talking about the common archive set months in advance, right? So you have to always keep these things in mind. We want to tell people in advance about these new sets and these new ideas and these new drops, but doing so then sets expectations that might not end up being what we deliver on. And I think that's something that we've taken as a big learning. We want to be really transparent and communicative, but when we do that, we need to do it in a way that doesn't set bad expectations. That then, because I think to the point that you guys are bringing up, if at least the Judge's point there, if we hadn't ever set this expectation, it would have been a different situation. People would have felt different because we wouldn't have left them a little bit confused. And then to Eric's point, although he's dropped, I hope he's still listening. It is fun to get in a queue, but only when the queue is fun to be in, right? Only when it's fun to know that if you've got a good number, you're going to get a sick pack, and that's something that we should keep in mind. And I think personally, we will see that more and more as we have committed to the size of the Series 3 rare and legendary packs and sets staying the same. And just going back to my previous point, if we see 50,000 people join the platform in January, December, whatever it is, those numbers are staying the same. The common set might increase. The common base sets we're selling, they might increase as we see more and more selling out. But because as you guys have noticed, we've been willing to shift the numbers on the base set release, right? So if we need to increase them, we need to decrease them, we will. But when it comes to rare and legendary, that's staying the same. So no matter how many people join the platform in Series 3, that's being consistent. And I'm not saying that this makes up for everything in the past, but imagine if we're doing that every series now. At the start of the series, we're laying that out, and it's job done. Does that make sense? So it's you can imagine, that we're planning more and more cool things to reward collectors. Our marketing team are rescaled up. There's a lot going on. Some of you who are in the Discord and the NLL, we even have a Jamie, who's the VP of Growth. She comes into what's called a Growth Suggestions channel, talks directly to Nine Lives Lounge members as well as courtside members to get some feedback and ideas. And that's gone down really well. And that's something I want to expand to the entire Discord, where the entire community can have a channel for suggestions around, here's what you could do to grow things. Here's what you could do to market better. Here's what you could do for email communications. And I want to have a range of these channels so that we can sort of leverage this more. And the whole reason this is connected, in my opinion, is because those things are going to scale up. Rare and legendaries will stay the same, right? So keep that in mind as the next month progress. It doesn't matter what happens. Rare and legendary set size and edition size are staying the same for the rest of Series 3 because that's what the Series 3 content roadmap laid out, which is, in my opinion, a direct learning of things we didn't do right last season.
Cool.
Or last series, I should say. Yeah, last
Cool.
series was, summer 21, sorry.
All right, cool. So, and I see we got some people waiting. Dream Shaker, you wanna hop on?
Hey, how's it going? Yeah, so I wanted to have a little bit more of a targeted response in terms of things that I think Top Shot does well, but ways that maybe could be improved. So, for instance, I have to agree with an earlier comment that the fresh threads set, like, and in general, the S3 moments quality wise are absolutely amazing. So, I mean, Jacob Eisenberg, like Austin Kent, like they're picking great moments. As somebody who watches a ton of NBA, and, you know, I think in other seasons I could have picked this moment or instead of this moment and what they're holding back probably in the future. I think they've calibrated things from a moment selection very well. But what I think there's kind of like the miscommunication aspect is that, like, I love those like pack opening, like those pack opening reveals. I'm probably the only one that likes them. I think that like 10 minutes into it, I think they started mentioning about, or maybe a few minutes in, about why they did this set. It's because of, you know, free NBA free agency and the excitement around it. And anybody who's an actual NBA fan knows that like this set is like, they have to do this set before we get out of beta. Like NBA free agency is huge. And it's not NBA Top Shot's fault that this free agency maybe isn't, you know, amazing for people. Although I will say that that's a bit overstated, because if you look at NBA Twitter, I think the engagement and interactions between certain trades, I think yield a much different response that nobody cares about these players and nobody cares about these trades. But the excitement, right? Like, imagine that set came out in 2012, The Decision, LeBron James. Me just saying that alone, putting you in that place, if this pack were to be revealed. And imagine you had the whole set from the year before and you're airdropped that LeBron James decision moment. My head is there in the future, and I can explain that to new people. But in general, if it's like a onboarded new user, I think that those are the narratives that are kind of missing from some of these sets. So I think that in terms of, you know, the oversupply issue, I think that targeting these like very real basketball sets, I think that has to be very much looked at, because yeah, you might commit to a certain amount of volume per set, but I think that these very like hardcore basketball driven sets, like those fans have to be rewarded. Those are the middle class collectors that were excited to get those archive moments, because maybe they couldn't afford a rib, but maybe they sell enough of those archive moments, ones that they actually appreciate and love to get in their collection for a low cost. You know, that's their way of trading. But it's in terms of like the rollout of like those really like great basketball moments, I think it was a bit early. I think there was a bit too much, as was stated earlier, you know, in terms of some of the numbers. And I think that targeting that very hardcore base and stripping down the numbers to a level, maybe half the min size, maybe we have to, you know, have a hard conversation about how many real basketball fans there are. And I don't know if a 10,000 min count across the entire Fresh Threads collection is indicative of that. Maybe cut it in half and then let us start having those like really pumped up moments, being able to trade up into the rigs we want. I think there's so many more sophisticated ways of getting the real basketball, like targeted like people, like spending money on the market beyond like the common sets. So one thing that was brought up as well that I want to touch on is how do you make this product cool again? So, and you touched it too. I think that the NBA already making these relationships with Dwayne Wade, with Shaquille O'Neal, with Kevin Durant, all steps in the right direction. Fantastic. But it doesn't feel authentic. It feels like it's a paid promotion. And I know that as a fan. And so when I tell other people about that, you know, it's almost like I have to almost like lie, like not I'm not lying about it, but it just doesn't feel completely immersed with the community, right? An airdrop from an NBA Top Shot account from a player. I mean, why can't that happen? And I understand that there's like a certain like regimen towards these things, but you know, I think that personalizing like NBA with the collectors who are on the base itself, I think that at the very least, that's a commitment that NBA Top Shot can finally start rolling out at some point down the year, because the holidays are coming up, All-Star break. There's still so much excitement to be had. Like, it's not over yet. So I just wanted to air out from like a basketball perspective, kind of certain targeted ways. And, you know, I could touch on a million more, but I'm going to give the floor out there to everyone else. Thank you for listening.
So again, a few different things, all super valid. And I just want, just before I go in, that's why I friggin' love this community, because how awesome is it that we can just jump in and we have this conversation, and like as you're talking, I'm typing notes to share to the team, so that like everyone can just hear and see this stuff. You know, I just think that's awesome. I think not like to pat ourselves in the back at Top Shot, but like, because all I'm doing is just I write what you people say and I take credit for it, and then the team's like, oh, Luke, where these ideas come from? And I'm like, not from me, from the community. And I can't stress enough like how literally top to bottom that's the case. Like these ideas that you were talking about, they're not just, oh, Dumbo heard it on chat and no one's ever going to hear them. Like, you know, they're getting heard, they're getting seen. It doesn't mean they'll happen, but it means they get considered, and you might see versions and forms of that down the line. And I think that stays true when you look at some of the stuff that has happened already. But getting to, so you did kind of two main points. The first one was like narrative of moments. Super valid, super important to us as a team. I think that one of the ways we can help make that a better process or more transparent and obvious is getting the likes of Austin and Jacob and others to really talk about these moments more. Like the moment reveals, they're really cool pieces of content. And I know some of our like biggest fans watch them. There's no reason we can't find a way to make that, more clear and more known to people. Like, for example, those moments, there's like 2 or 3 of them where they've been narrated by players. To me, they're so special. I don't even like the moments that much. I don't even like the players that much. But being able to own a moment that's narrated by a player where they talk you through the play in the moment is pretty cool. It's pretty special. There's no denying that. And I think stuff like that, we did that, like 8 months ago. And it was kind of like, I don't know how it's going to go. And people were like, this is really cool. But I feel like it's just the start. I feel like we can see more stuff like that. You know what I think? And this is a tangent. You know how like you got like Rap Genius, right? And you can see like you go on like a song. I think it's called Genius now. Rap Genius is years ago. You go on a song and there'll be like annotations. For anyone who don't realize, go check Genius out. Right, I'm pumping them. This is an ad. Then go check out Genius, and you can find your favorite songs. And people will break down the meanings of the lyrics. And then some of them will have what the artists themselves have added like a bit of a breakdown of some of the lyrics, and some of them will be like with a video of the artist explaining it, and stuff like that is really cool. And that's the benefit of a collection or like a platform being online that you can see being applied to collectibles, right? And it's just one example. I think there's many variants of this where you can be like, we're going to have a player talking about 10 of their favorite moments, but not just, oh, this is a cool moment I did dunk, but they can talk through the experience because they can see it. You can see it on screen as they're talking through it, right? And I think that, to Dream's point, is how we bring the narrative back, and we remind people, well, not even remind people, but we explain to newer collectors, like, you want to see, I don't know, KD. You want to see KD and the cool moments he's got, and you want to understand why they're cool. Maybe there's a world where one day in the future he's explaining it. I don't know. I'm just spitballing here. But my point is, like, those things are not off the table. It's just, as I alluded to in the last sort of monologue I did, they weren't the focus of the last 8 months, but we have built the tools that can allow for those things to happen, as you've seen from the 1 or 2 narrated moments. So you can imagine how that can expand in the next couple of years. When it comes to your second point around Top Shot being cool, interesting one, not one I'm too worried about, because I agree when we talk in this space, literally this spaces, when we talk on Twitter, when we DM in Discord and et cetera, it kind of feels like, oh, same old sometimes. Or like, oh, this is new, but it took longer than we thought. Or like, there's this only one drop I'm excited about, or whatever it is. But then you have to step back and realize we are like in a bit of a bubble of communication. Like, how many of us literally talk and think and read about Top Shot every single day? Like, it's kind of wild. It's really cool, but it's kind of wild. And we always have to keep in mind, when someone new joins the platform, when they check out owning a few packs and ripping them open, they're having this whole new experience that we all had like 8 months ago, and we can have a bit of a disconnect there. And I think what I would rather we do, to your point, Dream, is focus on how to remind current collectors who have been around for more than a couple of months, and this is kind of like to Judge's point, to remind them what's so awesome about this platform, to remind them why they are passionate fans and collectors, even if it doesn't feel like they are day to day, because that will help them when they're talking to their friends remember what's so freaking cool about being able to collect moments from your favorite players as an NFT that comes with all this perks and utility, and it is no other platform is doing it.
Hey Luke, can I hop real quick and just on behalf of the basketball community, I don't want to speak on behalf of everyone, but we appreciate so much, the flash challenges, like all that engagement with us, totally in the right path. There's so many things that I can cover, including this conversation that you're having with us, both with Plunge and now with Tandy. I think we can speak all day on how like that is the future of fandom, is that open communication. But what I will say is that there's one thing that I'm a bit worried about, and it's how those 60K moments can maybe affect all the fun that we're having with these flash challenges. So I really want to make that perfectly clear that the oversupply issue, while it's hit a few things in the past, let's not it affect like the one place that it really like is so much fun right now. And I can't tell you how much fun we have within our Discords, contemplating on what's going to happen and how it's going to happen. But the fun, if there's 60K moments around, like just being able to pick left and right, like it's going to suck it dry out of a community that's really just enjoying that one piece and is expecting many more. So just on behalf of that, I just want to say that we're really looking at that issue as a potential problem in the future. And I hope that you can take that back with the team and maybe talk about that, because we love it.
Yeah, this is one of the ones I'm not going to take back to the team, not because I don't agree, but because we've heard it every single day for like a week straight. If I post it now, I just get, yeah, we know people love it, calm down, right? And that's not because it's not valid, it's because you guys have been loud about it. And I encourage you, when you see something you like I think the natural situation we're in is you know, anything, not just Top Shop, anything. You always hear complainers and downsides and negatives more, and that's fine. I'm okay with that. But I think it's also important for us as a community to elevate the positive things well, because that way we know what to focus on to do more of, right? When we get negative feedback, we're like, all right, we need to adjust that, we need to change that. But sometimes we should make sure the positive stuff is just shouted about, not for others. Like, DM it to me if you want. You don't have to say it publicly. I'm not asking for you to congratulate Topshop publicly. I'm just saying, like, the balance of DMs I get, maybe 80% of them are like, I don't like this, and 10 to 20% are I like this. I pass it all on. But when we know what we like, what you like more, we can do more of it. And that's a really easy thing as well, because when it's negative, it's like, well, we need to change a fundamental concept. We need to adjust like a feature. We need to adjust a plan, which is quite difficult. When it's just do more of this, that's like, okay, just do more. Like that's easy, right? So I'm glad to hear it, and I encourage anyone listening, if you like, doesn't have to be public. If you just like have something cool that you've seen that you're like, they did this once or twice. It'd be cool if they did it more, or like the direction they went in here. Do more of that. Like, open to it, because we can implement that stuff and action on it just as well as we can implement an action on changing things we've done badly.
Cool. So I know we had a few people out here who also are waiting. If it would help me actually if you guys would like raise your hand if you're ready to go up. But I think Ben Cameron, you've been waiting for a little bit. Do you want to jump on?
When I first jumped in, I had something I wanted to comment on, and it's kind of been passed by now, so I can just drop down. That's cool too.
No, bro, you can comment, man. We can go back. I don't mind.
No, I honestly don't even remember what it was. I'm just listening mostly. I had something to say at the time, and obviously not that important. So
well, let me ask you a question, Ben. And
bet.
The vein of what I just said, what, like, putting you on the spot. But if you're up here and you haven't got a question, you're going to get put on the spot. I want like one thing that is like your favorite thing about Top Shot, and then one thing that's like your least favorite thing. Go, shoot.
Okay, so my least favorite thing is it seems like we're listening to the community, while that's a positive, seems like almost a cover sometimes. Like, yeah, we're just listening to you guys, and I feel like sometimes it's almost like a cop out. So that would be my negative. And my favorite thing is the Flash challenges recently. It just gives you a lot of stuff to pay attention to and to get excited about, especially between pack drops. Those are the two most fun things for me anyway, is the things you get to log on and hope that you can score a pack, or you can get the guys that are gonna make it into the next Flash challenge. So
yeah, it's difficult because your least favorite thing was when we say we hear you and we listen to you. So I can't really comment on what you've given as feedback without saying that. No, joking aside, mate. To that point, I actually agree. I hate when I come up and all I can say is I hear you, and I know I've done a lot of that, and I hate that, because that's not what people want. But it's like there's it's difficult to say much more, and that's why I implore you, if you feel that way, to just wait to see the actions, because they do come, and sometimes they come. Like, things we do can often be happening because of community feedback. We just don't always draw the lines between A and B. So I implore people to, like, if you weren't around 8 months ago, go and look at the feedback and the ideas we were getting 8 months ago, and you can see what's been implemented in that time, and it will help realize that, like, oh, like, they are actually listening, and I just wish they would stop saying it. And I don't think it's a cover. I know it might, like, if you take it that way, that's on me, because I don't mean to say because we're listening to you, everything's fine. I mean to say, hey, if you've got problems, we're listening, and there's still problems, but they're being heard. And that isn't, I apologize to anyone, especially Jacob, who's going to be mad at me. If it sounds like I was trying to say everything's fine because I'm here listening, definitely not intended.
No, I think my main point with that is just, there's stuff that gets at, basically not everyone is on the same side. You listen to the community, and some things, no matter what it is, not everyone's going to agree with it. And so to some point, things have to, come from you guys, as opposed to, yeah, we're just listening to what you guys want, because listening to what, this 60% want isn't what the other 40% want. And so I know that part of that is well, maybe the 60% are the long-term people, and there's definitely something to be said about that. I don't know that the decisions you've made because of listening to the community have necessarily been bad. I would just say that, you know, you guys are the ones running things, and you guys are the ones that ultimately have to answer for everything. And so it seems like listening to the community at times can lead you away from at least, you know, what some people want.
Yeah, I think that's super interesting, and I think that is why we always have to balance it, right? I really appreciate the feedback, though, mate. I know I put you on the spot, and I think it's awesome. I was nervous when you led with your least favorite thing because I was like, no, that means you got one already. I didn't want to hear that, but I appreciate you answering on the spot. I'll let Tandy pick whoever's next.
Cool. I'm trying to remember who was next. I think maybe Spence has been waiting for a little while, so go ahead, Spence.
Hey, Luke, what's up?
Anyone but Spence. Veto.
Yeah,
Veto.
there we go. No, my question kind of ties to Ben's comment a little bit, and don't take this the wrong way. I'm trying to be diplomatic with kind of how I say it, but we hear, we're listening, and there have been a lot of improvements on actually taking things the community says and implementing them. But one of the things that is really, really frustrating, and I think mistakes have been made over and over and over again. And in this regard is I'll give you an example just with, and I'm going to beat this drum again, but the supply that we're seeing, but not necessarily the common supply. My example is more like way back when you were probably still collecting, we had the Scene Stars set, and then we had the All-Star Game set. And then we know what happened with that. And that was a weird time. Things were really too highly valued and people were paying outrageous prices for things. But that aside, I think a lot of people felt like the All-Star Game set nuked, the Scene Star set. And if I'm alone in that, I'd be shocked.
You are not alone. You are not alone, friend.
Okay, so then
you are not alone.
Right, good.
If you are alone, mate, that's fine. We don't need a group. Let's all support each other.
Yeah, no.
Feedback.
But we actually do have a support Discord just for people who think that same thing.
Yeah,
we're in there. We do therapy once a week. Trust me, it's a good time. Get in that.
Right. We do. I got some confidence. Okay, so then we see the playoff set, and that's a huge set, and we're wondering why we have 2 Daniel Gafford moments from the playoffs. Okay, so then we hear from Top Shot, not you, Luke, but yeah, guys, we're gonna be careful, and in Series 3 we're not even gonna have Scene Stars because that wasn't a great idea. And then we get to run it back, and I can live with the archives even because I understand that there's a difference between a 10,000 and 20,000 mint and 990 for the RIBs. But then we get a Vintage Vibes set with Shaq that is the same mint almost as his RIB, and then a Vince Carter that's almost the same as his RIB. Why are we? Why? It seems like we're doing the same thing over again, and I feel crazy myself for saying it, but is that gonna stop? Because the community's telling you why do we keep duplicating moments, and that just takes away from the significance of the Shaq debut when we have a Shaq Vintage Vibes that got minted. And I understand it was a challenge, and there's probably analytics that are run on how many people will complete that challenge and whatever, but the mint ended up being 884. What was the need for that? And that you might not be able to answer that because I know you're that's not your gig, but how is that taken to the team, and is the team then coming? It seems like the team comes back and they're like, well, no, this is why it's a reason, and the users are like, well, no, we're telling you it's not a good thing to do, and the Dapper team will just come back and say, well, we're building for the future, and I think that's a lot of where the frustration comes in. Is we feel like what's the point? Why don't we just wait 3 months after things can settle? And maybe this is our fault for being naive a little bit, but why don't we just wait kind of see, because it seems like there's surprises around every nook and cranny. Like, I'm just wondering, is there any thought given to like, okay, we kind of did this oversupply thing with these specific sets a few times. Maybe we'll be more careful and not have that vintage vibe set like in the future. I don't know how much you can say to that, and I hope I don't sound again alone on that, Judge. But that's kind of my thoughts.
Yeah. So it's. I mean, as you pointed out, like some of this stuff happened before my time, so it's just really difficult for me to talk about it like in a fair way. You know what I mean? Because I don't want to say anything about not anything, but like I was not happy with the Seeing Stars, Rising Stars, because I was a collector at the time, and I was like, this is crazy. Go check Dumbo on live token and see. You know, I didn't do too well at that, and I was a little bit upset. But you know, I'm now after that when I was on the team, I can talk about it a little more. And I think again, when you ask, is that sort of thing going to keep happening? You know, what should we expect? There's all these surprises, but that's kind of the idea of the content roadmap, is to like lay out what's coming as best as we can. Not all of it, and we definitely will be improving, but to sort of lay out like, hey, you can see what drops are coming, so you can imagine, and like you can plan for it, and you can also then imagine how like that went down really well. And when we come to the next time we do a roadmap, we can learn from that and be like, hey, giving people information, as long as we set out the expectation, goes down well. And I think that was kind of a big learning for us, because we've been hesitant to reveal too much about our content roadmap, because we're working with multiple parties, multiple stakeholders, right? We have to run stuff like that. We have to make sure the NBA are on board. And of course they are. The NBA, to be honest, are an amazing partner, but it's still like, what if like the way we want to release it isn't what like the way we end up wanting to release it? So we have to plan a lot more in advance. But my whole point of saying all this is we did that for the content roadmap. It went down well. Why, as a community and as a company and as a platform, why would we not do that more? Like it was received well. The Nine Life Lounge, we just released a roadmap for that. Again, obviously, like, this is what I focus on, the NLL quite a lot. That's why I bring it up. But I was nervous to put out a roadmap that was like, here's what's coming in the next 3 months, and then there's going to be more, and there's not specific dates, but it's just sort of maybe vague. But people didn't see that. People were like, oh, they've given us information. And like people that weren't in the NLL, they liked it because they were like, they've given information about that set. If I want to collect that set, they've laid that out. And I can now go back to the team and we can talk about that and be like, I didn't really see negative reactions to where we didn't include hard dates. I saw positive reactions to where we set expectations. And I think, not that this answers your initial question of how can that happen with the Shaq moment, etc. Because I want to avoid the specifics. I want to talk about the philosophy. We can see the learnings from the roadmap. And I don't know why we wouldn't continue to repeat that and do that more and more, which would address the core of the issue, in my opinion.
Right. So here's something that is coming up is the legendary drop around Christmas, right? So, or well, I guess we don't know specifically when it is, but we know there's some legendary historical drop coming up. Like, why don't we know who those players are right now? Like that's only 2 or 3 weeks away, I think we don't even know that. So, like, isn't that a good opportunity to be like, hey guys, here's 3 weeks notice, like here's what's happening? Or does that completely kill the anticipation? Like, I'm just wondering what the mindset is internally on that. I appreciate the answer. What you're saying at a broad level makes sense. I'm not asking for specifics on, like, the Shaq or whatever.
Yeah, like the only reason I say that is because it's also so tricky, because there's always so many things that I'm not even like thinking of when I talk about a specific moment or specific set. Like it's so easy. So like when we talk about that legendary drop, like I like, why, like the more early we announce a drop, right, the harder it is to make sure we have the most amazing moments and players you want in that drop. Because what if we announce it like now and we're like, these are the players in legendary drop, and then like, I don't know, like next week Curry just drops some absolute fire dunk or whatever, or like LaMelo goes off and one, or LeBron like does something crazy, boom, elbow to the face, whatever it is. Like, why would we want to like sort of stop that from being able to be in the set? But that's the issue if we do give too much, like if we commit to it too early. It's not the only issue. The other thing is, like what you talked about, is it's like hard to have as much anticipation. It just becomes a date on the calendar for a few weeks in advance. And like when we're ramping up like the work we're doing with the partnerships with Boardroom, the work we're doing with like other partners in the space, the marketing teams expanded, these legendary drops, they should feel like an event, in my opinion at least. They should be like, you're texting your mates being like, you want to go out on a Friday? nah, mate, I got a legendary drop on a Saturday. It probably won't be a Saturday. People plan to go out on Friday night. My point is, you don't want to wake up hungover to the next day, because there's going to be a drop, and you want to make sure you're about and alert for it, right? That's how big an event it should be, that like you're planning for it. And if we give a 3 weeks notice, it's hard to maintain anticipation for 3 weeks. So like, I don't think it's necessary. I understand your point, but I don't think it's actually as good a solve as it feels like. I do think it's something we should try and solve. And I personally think the best way to do that is what we've seen, where we say every player can only have 1 or 2 moments in a legendary set, because then when we talk about the next legendary drop, you can figure it out a little bit. When we talk about the next rare drop or whatever, you can have a better idea of what's going to come based on what's already happened. And I think, again, I said this earlier, and it's a bit of a cop-out answer, I appreciate, but I do think as we progress through this series and this season, people are going to see that more in action, because they'll see it happen, and it'll be easier to sort of realize the benefits of the approach we're taking this season compared to last.
Right.
Yeah, I just want to say real quick, Spence, I totally get what you're saying too. And I think that the challenge is when we compare it to things that happened previously. I mean, I know that there's certain things now with like because the Shaq archive example, that was S2, right? And I know that, you might look at like a John Morant 10K and then be like, well, then what's the point of the John Morant 15K? And I think that's part of the challenge, which is that I think what also, I don't want to speak for Luke, but I think it's basically like S3 is sort of a different, they're taking a different a take on the whole thing, basically. And so it's tough for people who are here since S2, because it's our natural inclination to sort of compare and contrast. And I think what Luke is saying here is that, at least how I'm interpreting it, is like this is the sort of the way going forward.
Yeah, like
that makes sense. I you know what, like as a user who loves Top Shot, and I can speak for lots of people on that, like I think we're willing to, well, me anyway, is willing to give S3 and the roadmap a chance. Like, but gosh, if the mistakes on kind of keep happening, I worry for the current base that we aren't going to be as patient. And that's not any sort of like, I'm going to leave or else. It's not that. It's just I worry for the broad user base if they can kind of wait that out again. But I am excited to see what happens for S3. No, that's a good point, Tandy.
I would just add on, just on that final point as well. Like, look at Series 1. You could get the same play as a common moment, a rare moment, or a legendary moment. And that was something we just completely moved away from in Series 2, or before my time. But, like, that's quite a drastic difference in approach to what moments or what tier and how with moments and plays we've been treated. And, like, I just want to highlight that to point out, like, things can change like that. Like, we're still evolving, we're still processing, we're still growing. And you can imagine at the time, people in Series 1 who did like that were like, well, what's going on in Series 2? But I think it was better for the platform overall. The people that didn't like that change might have, like, not like that. Some might have even left. Some might have been like, I'm not into Top Shot anymore. But I think on the majority, they liked it. But that was still, like, not a risky change. That feels extreme. But it's still quite a big change to make to the core philosophy that the Top Shot team were more than willing to do. And that's now how things are. You can only get, like, one play as one, like, rarity, right? You can't have the rare moment be the same as a common moment in terms of the play. So I'm just trying to highlight that to people that weren't around for Series 1, how much things have changed in that regard. But I feel like I addressed it enough for you, Spence. Let me know if not.
Yeah, it's never enough, but that's fine. I'm just kidding. I'm just joking. I'll be in your DMs later. No worries.
Yeah, please do, mate. Slide in.
All right. I know we got a few people waiting. I'm trying to think who came here in order. I think Stimmy, you might be next. You want to go, Stimmy?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me. Only because a few people brought it up, it just prompted the question in my brain. What is Top Shot trying to be? Like, is Top Shot trying to be cool? So many people have mentioned that, like, hey, we got to make it cooler. We got to up the cool factor, this, that, and the third. And I just started thinking, like, is that what you want? Or is Top Shot just trying to be mass market? Or does Top Shot feel like it's possible to do both? From what I'm seeing, it kind of feels like some mixed messaging. And that makes me worry a little bit. Only in the fact that when I think of, like, hey, what makes something cool to people? And what I found cool in the past, there's usually a good deal of scarcity involved. Usually a bit of like, oh man, I'm trying to get this and it's really difficult. And that's how it kind of felt with Top Shot in the fall of last year. That's not how it feels right now. And that's totally fine. It just means very different approaches. You know, with these high mint counts and constant releases, I'm just getting the sense like, and then like the fact that we know like the more macro thing, like Dapper's raised a bunch of funding. I imagine at some point you guys want to pay that back. So what that might mean. So it makes me think like, all right, are you trying to do this? Or are you trying to do that? If you think both is possible, then I wonder how. Just because I feel like you usually have to pick one route or the other. I could say more on that, but in general, like in my mind, Supreme keeps coming up because I'm like, okay, that's a brand that over multiple decades kind of built on a slow burn. And now, even though it's much more mainstream, everybody knows Supreme, there's still like the scarcity factor, still crazy resale, so on and so forth. And I just wonder like if Top Shot has reference points for like, okay, we want to brand build like this. What are your reference points then to make it cool or to make it mass market?
Man, I love that question. I mean, first of all, I'm going to make this clear. I'm not going to say we're trying to be cool because the moment you say that, you're not cool. No one can publicly say I'm trying to be cool and still be cool.
It's true.
So like it's just the wording, man. Let me say, like, because you again a couple of questions in one. What Top Shot is trying to be, and in my opinion, what they are gonna be and already succeeding to be, is like as we say time and time again, the future of fandom. And like the reason I want to specify that is because to some people, basketball cards are like the coolest thing in the world. To other people, they're a little bit nerdy, a little bit weird. I don't know those people. I don't want to know them, but they're out there. Those people are out there, right? It's kind of the same thing here. It's hard to just be like as universally cool because it is so new. It's like a new technology. It's a new concept in a way, right? So I do think long term it will be quite a cool and sought after thing to be a part of. But I think we need to be more granular than is it trying to be cool and scarce, or is it trying to be mass marketing and not cool? I think the rare moments, the legendary moments, long term, these ultimate moments, the platinum ice ones, they're going to be the freaking cool moments. They're going to be the coolest moments, right? And then the common moments, they're like, oh, they're not as cool. They're all right. They're just not as cool. I'm not as proud. I'm not as like, yo, you got to check out this common moment. But they're like there for the mass market, right? Where anyone can get a few of them, and therefore they don't feel as cool, but you can still feel like part of the system of like the ecosystem, I should say, of Top Shot, right? And so like, I think we can do both, but it's not as easy as like as a whole movement. I think the both is granular in that some of these things will be cool, like the rare, the legendaries, and not every rare, not every legendary, and some won't be cool, right? Like if Plumlee gets like a legendary holo, it's probably not going to be the coolest one. And LeBron's commons are kind of cool, right? Like it is always going to be mixed, but I think there's space for both. And again, not marketing team. I don't know how that impacts like marketing plans, but that's kind of where my head's at with that.
Cool. Appreciate it, man.
Cool. Let's see who we got. We got. I know Chewy's been waiting. I know. So Chewy, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, thank you. If there was somebody that came before, I can step back. I can wait patiently. But my point is, is pretty quick. I think it's only one. With the collector score, for I don't know if the correct term is middle class, but for somebody that came on in February and has collected enough moments to have what I think is a high collector score, and then also trying to get community members, locally here as I go to games and things like that to come on and they're starting, or people that I've met that did join in February and then stopped collecting and I'm trying to get them back into it. Knowing what a high enough collector score is for rare drops or legendary drops, things like that. And when we get to that threshold where I'm at now, there's things that I kind of want to either sell or maybe even gift and upgrade some of my moments. So it might drop my collector score down, but I want to make my gallery, make my collection a little bit better, a little bit nicer for myself to look at with maybe higher serial numbers lower serial numbers. And collect a little bit more of what I want to make it better, worrying how low can I go, but still be good for those good packs, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Everyone, you heard Chewy, he's taking on those 10k serials for a number one, just trade with him. He wants those high serials. No, in seriousness, I don't think that's a necessary. I think the solve there is just the improvements to the collector experience as like a UI sort of thing, right? So like we talked about it as a concept in the community before, like folders for collecting. Imagine like, you know, you get those like I don't know if you have them in the US, like sticker books, right? And you can like you can buy in the UK. It was like you buy like soccer cards and like open them up and like stick them down, and like you could like have a book filled with them, right? And it was kind of a bit like a Pokedex of players. Like I don't see there's a world where like Top Shot builds that sort of style of feature where like you can start filling in a virtual codex of some kind of players or a virtual book. Like all these things are definitely solvable with UI and product features, which I think is probably a better long-term solution than just trying for collectors to try and figure out what they should trade and sell and buy. Not that there's not room for both, but I think it's one of those things where we can never have that level of transparency of if you get this collector score, you're good forever, because that puts us in like a really tough position where we're not flexible. So I think adding features to the site that allow collector experience to change without changing the core sort of gameplay elements that we have in the moment at the moment for your moments, that was a mouthful, is a better resolution for that person. Does that make sense, Chewy? Like a UI solve would be my response.
Yeah, it does make sense. Yeah, and I know there's been flexibility with the collector score. You know, we've noticed that there can be patterns. We can kind of guess where we might be safe, and with new people coming on or coming back, you know, we can tell them, well, last time it was this or that. You know, so they can have a somewhat of an idea. But yeah, I mean, we would like the idea and the ability to do what you said of organizing. I mean, people have talked about that for a long time, of being able to organize our collection better, not just with showcases, but just within the collection itself. I mean, there's so many showcases now. Being able to have a bulk delete option or something for
God, that's amazing. Let me write that one down.
You know, that would be helpful. Once we don't need those showcases anymore, you know.
All right. Well, thank you, Chewy. So let me let Anna go because we don't usually have female voices in the Top Shot space. So, Anna, go ahead if you're ready to take the floor.
Just quickly. Sorry, my internet cut a little bit.
Go.
So just give me 1 sec. I was just going to say, Chewy, like that suggestion, a bulk delete option, is incredible. I'm going to pass that on. I'm going to try and prioritize that. I don't know how doable it is, but that's exactly what I mean by the value of these spaces. I've not made a showcase in like 8 months. I don't have 50 showcases at the moment. I hadn't even considered that. And the rest of the team are probably going to feel the same way. So that's why I really value the feedback and the direct communication we can have as a community to platform environment. So I just wanted to say that because it's such a real example.
Hold on. I got to chime in there, though, Luke, because that's something that, again, and Chewy, great point. But this is something that we've talked about recently, and I think there's a disconnect between the team at Dapper and Top Shot and the user base, because we're experiencing all these things, and since you guys can't collect, you guys aren't aware. It doesn't seem like a lot of the frustrations and a lot of the issues that we're having. And how could you guys be, right? Because you're not experiencing them, right? You're not sitting in queues for 4 or 5 hours.
Here, mate. That's what I'm saying is like my role in my head is very much to find those frustrations and voice them internally. This is the first time I've heard the suggestion of a bulk delete option for showcases. And I was trying to highlight, like, that's what this whole thing is meant to be. Like, we could do this every week if you wanted, where we could just sit in the spaces for however long people wanted. All the Annas, the Chewies, and the Dreams and the Judges of the world could just throw these things at me.
But I guess I would just counter it and say, and again, I think that's great, but I would just counter with saying, is there something that you guys think, again, letting the people at Dapper be able to use the product again so they can be aware of a lot of our frustrations and see them a lot easier? It just, again, so there may not be this disconnect, and you guys too could kind of live in real time in you know, as we are experiencing the same things and going through the same kind of obstacles and frustrations, and also good experiences as well, right? So you guys could get to gauge feedback that way from people using the product at Top Shot at Dapper.
Yeah, I think that's super valid. I just can't speak on that because that's like the team of like the compliance and the making sure they do it the right way have to deal with that. I think it's valid. I think we'll see it one day. Can't say any more than that. Like, I don't have a timeline or anything like that, but I think it's really valid. And I think that my opinion in the meantime is to get as many of these conversations happening and as many of these not just me, but as many Dapper staff listen to it, getting the recordings, making sure everyone can hear it if they've got the time, etc., etc. I'm super conscious of the fact that Anna was about to speak and I interrupted her and the judge interrupted me. Judge, I appreciate the feedback though. It's noted. I don't have any updates on like a potential play policy, but I'm sure like it's being talked about by Roham. It's something that's on the radar for one day. But go on, Anna. I'll pass it back to you after like 5 minutes of interruptions.
Thank you. That's very sweet. So I was actually just kind of wondering, when will the updates be for like the the Top Shot drops and stuff, or like things like that? I know that might be kind of like a general question, but I was just kind of wondering. But
for the jobs, did you say? I didn't.
Drops.
Oh, drops. In what sense? Like when will you be able to find out about the next drop?
Yeah.
So what you can do, you can go to like the content roadmap we've got. If you've not seen it, DM me. I can send you a link. And we've kind of laid out sort of a rough timeline without specific dates there. So, for example, we've talked about wanting to do a legendary drop. I can't remember the word in the blog. Sorry if I get this wrong, but either like before or around Christmas, right? Like one of those. So you can expect you'll get more updates a week or two before that sort of rough timeline. The reason it's rough is because there's a lot of moving parts, even down to literally making sure we have all the right staff on that day. It's really hard to plan out 8 months of making sure we have all the support team in, for example, on a drop day. So, but if you look at the content roadmap, you can kind of find when those drops and when those set releases and find the date. And within, I would say, at least a week or two before, there'll be updates. Make sure you're following the NBA Top Shot Twitter, make sure you're in the Discord, and that's going to be the best way to get any announcements like we post simultaneously across both. But no updates other than that at the moment. See, Anna's trying to get alpha out of me. All of you people just are complaining. Anna's like trying to sneak bits of info.
I think one more question I kind of had was like, I think on a last baller session there was like a informational session on what kind of sports you guys were doing next or something. But did you guys have any information on like if you were moving on to like a different sport after this, or like is it or no?
So Top Shot as a team is definitely staying focused on NBA, but Dapper Labs as like, I guess you call it the parent company. Please no one quote me on that. Otherwise, like the team, that's not telling me what it is if I'm wrong. But like as a company at Dapper Labs, so we're working obviously as Top Shot, which you guys are all familiar with NBA. We've announced All Day, which is NFL. We've got La Liga, which hasn't got like a name, and that's no timeline on that. And we've got UFC, and the UFC, no timeline, but as I said in the NLL, there'll be more updates in the next few months. So they're kind of the main four. So that's NFL, La Liga, which is obviously soccer, Top Shot, which is basketball, and UFC, which is UFC. Beyond that, we've not said anything else like sports wise, but you can imagine when other sports like, I don't know, lacrosse or volleyball or whoever, rugby, see the success of Top Shot, see NFL getting on board, see La Liga getting on board. Like obviously our partnership team is going to be very busy, but I don't have any news about what's confirmed beyond that. You can follow Dapper Labs on Twitter to see updates there, as well as just like the Flow blockchain Twitter account, because that will just show you general, not that all Dapper, but general things that are building on Flow, which are going to be a similar sort of level of awesomeness, in my opinion. But yeah, I hope that helps.
Yeah, that really does help. Thank you so much, Luke. I really appreciate it.
No worries. Any other questions, do feel free to DM. Like if you're not so, like if anyone listening isn't as familiar as like the Judge and Spence and Top Shot, who can quote reference a drop from like 8 months ago and tell me what day and time it was and how many editions and moments it was, please DM me. You don't need to know that much to be in part of this conversation, and you can ask any question you want and we can help you get settled in. So thank you for that, Anna. That was a nice one. See, people ask questions like Anna. Go on, Top Shot. I'll let you pass it on to whoever else.
Yeah,
guys, I've probably got a drop in like 10, 15, but I'll try and be quicker with my answers because of that.
Yeah, we'll try to make this the speed round. RJ, go ahead, speed round.
Hey, Luke. Thanks so much for doing this. I think I can speak for everyone when, we say how much we appreciate you putting yourself out there and answering these direct and tough questions. It's really awesome, and part of why I think a lot of people are sticking out what we could call tough times and keeping faith. So just wanted to say that to start. think my question is pretty straightforward, really two-part. Like, one, does the Economist who was introduced to the community, early in the summer still work at Top Shot? And if so, why would he be introduced in such a front-facing, an exciting way, through an official Twitter account, through multiple blog posts, only to really like disappear externally? Because at least for me, that was like, as someone who it was, I don't want to say losing faith, but whatever you want to call it, it was a sign that really excited me, and at least I thought if would hold the team accountable to some of the decisions that have come up around mint sizes, sets, and then the impact on the market. And thank you so much.
Yes. No, appreciate that, mate. So 100% he's still about. He's one of my favorite colleagues. We chat very often. He is very regularly. Like, he will literally be like, I don't know, like 10 o'clock at night his time, and he'll message me like, hey, can I get like a 15-minute rundown on like, I saw these conversation topics mentioned. Can you give me a rundown from like community point of view? Because he wants to stay tapped in, which I think is just incredible. Like, it's like that. The end of his day is like 10 p.m. Like, he works like a bloody horse. Right? I absolutely love him. He is still about. We also have, I believe that team has expanded as well. I just don't think the Twitter's been used. I don't feel like we should read into that. I'd be worried about that. Like, look, Twitter isn't always the most effective tool to communicate issues around like economy and discussion. I think we could definitely see about maybe at some point in the future when he's not so bloody busy getting him involved in like a Spaces or an AMA sort of thing. But a lot of what he deals with, it's hard to talk for him to, candidly discuss. Like, it's hard for me to slip up because I don't know a lot about like the Economist decisions. Like, I don't know what he's planning for like the next 3, 6, 12 months, right? But he does. So it's easier for me to make sure I talk about things that are public knowledge. It's harder for him because it's just the different roles we play. But he's definitely still about. He's still active. He's a very respected voice in the company. And I would say he's not the only one who makes sure to hold us accountable, but he's definitely one of them for sure. So I wouldn't worry about no tweets coming from him. He's still about.
All right, cool. And that was my main question. I was really just looking back at a couple of the blog posts that also gave, some really interesting data around, the specific moments, and even a couple around the Series 1, Series 2 breakdown in terms of volume and average price of sales. And that was just really great to see. So that was my main thing. And then I'll get out and let someone else go next since you're limited for time. Just wanted to say that Shui's point around organizing collections is, other than supply, the biggest thing in my opinion. Just in the sense that if you go to someone's Instagram, you go to someone's like whatever, it's you're interested to see the first thing up top. And with the Top Shot account, especially with the 60,000 moments and being able to buy 10 packs, you could own a really awesome moment, but you never see it. It's buried 10 minutes of scrolling down your page, and then you kind of forget about like why you liked it in the first place. And I think that leads to a decline in value and makes it less fun to go check out other people's pages. So I'll jump on. That wasn't really a question. That was more just reiterating that point. And I think that could go like a really long way if there was like creativity in putting your biggest moments maybe bigger up top. And then it's like you're getting a sense of, oh, this is this person's best 2 moments. This is their team. And it gives you like a little more personality to the whole experience. All right, thanks a lot.
No, that's awesome. Just want to finish off just because you mentioned something that I didn't touch on in terms of like blogs from The Economist. I'll pass it on. I think that's a really good point. I don't think it's that we don't want to do them. It just hasn't been like the blogs were like around trade tickets or around like edition sizes, and there's not been a content release that made sense to do it. But maybe we can still do a general one because he loves doing these deep dives in data. He talks about it all the time, and maybe it's just we can actually find one that's already done and we can publish it and share it more widely. But go on, speed round. So I'll pass it on, Tandy, whoever you think should go next.
Yeah, we got a lot of hands up here. Let's give someone who hasn't spoken. Mr. B-Man, go ahead. Speed round.
Thanks, Tandy. Also, thanks, ElDumbo, for being here. Speaks volumes to have a community leader that actually listens. Speed round. I do want to just start with the pro. I will say that the moments for S3 are great. Great in quality. Great moments, period. Unfortunately, I'm not collecting a lot of them because there doesn't appear to be much value other than trade-in. I do want to. Earlier, you talked about you wanted, you talked about growth and the big focus on growth, but I haven't really seen any data that shows that Top Shot is actually like growing as far as increased monthly new users, unique sellers and buyers. They kind of like peak and flow, and don't really and haven't really grown since like March as far as the data that we can see on like moment rates. So I was wondering if maybe like we could get some more transparent numbers, monthly data, because I do consider myself not just a collector but an investor in NBA Top Shot. Um, and then on the commons, some is there any plan to have anything to potentially increase the value of the lower serial numbers as far as challenges or anything like that, or is that kind of going to be up to the community to decide if lower serial numbers are actually going to matter? And then just one last thing, I think I'm surprised no one said it, but I think we're all really hoping for a rake back or whatever version of that would be for Top Shot. To yeah.
So for that last question, I believe Rohan addressed it in his AMA, and I'm definitely not, I can't remember it well enough to quote it. And if I say the wrong thing, I'm unintentionally contradicting my CEO. So please, if you want to check on that question, just go and find the AMA. It should be a timestamp. You should be able to jump in and find it. But I don't want to try and I can't remember how he phrased it, but I would refer to that. For number two, again, I hate doing this after my vague answer just then. Not going to address it now because it would be horrible. Imagine if there's only the 200 people in the spaces got some alpha about plans or non-plans around low serial numbers. It's too I just wouldn't want to address that either way. What I will say is if there was any plans, it would go out via announcements. It would go out via blog. It would or it would be a surprise and delight for everyone. There's not so there's no one on the team that's going to really provide an answer different to our formal communications on a topic like that, or really ever in theory. But I mean that's a very non-opinion situation. So I'm not going to talk more about that. Which then brings us to number one, which is a really cool idea. Not my area. I don't know if we could really publish growth numbers as a commitment every month, but the blockchain is incredibly transparent. If you're not already, I would recommend checking out Live Token. So it's Live Token Co on Twitter, and you can actually join his Discord. And he has an automatic he grabs the blockchain data and he posts it every morning at I want to say 8 a.m. PDT, something like that, 11 o'clock Eastern. I'm not sure, but he just posts it, and it's not all the data in the world, but he's openly taking feedback on other ideas. And some of the data he looks at is number of sellers, number of buyers, number of moments listed. And I think that's really cool. It's a third-party tool, but it reads from the blockchain. So it's pretty much as accurate as we could give. It won't have the same information of how many people click sign up, but I don't know if he does, but he could definitely do how many new accounts have bought a moment or opened a pack, because that's on the blockchain. So I hope that addresses all three. And I realize I've addressed all three with a non-answer from me, but I feel like it's still an answer overall.
All right. Well, thanks, Luke.
Right, thank you. And sorry, just to say, if you want to help with what I'm talking about the date there on Live Token, feel free to DM me and I'll show you it.
Yeah, Live Token is great. Bonfire is great. Definitely check that out. I don't know actually who was next first, but DRLB, go ahead.
Hey, Luke, just a quick point. With the most recent Run It Back series, I liked the 2 to 3 week lead-in time of some teasers and advertising. I think that's a good thing, and I would actually think that you could do it for potentially a longer period of time. I think people are going to make drop day for these big drops no matter what. I don't think there's an amount of coverage that you could give me that would make me less excited for the for the actual date. So I would just say encourage you to consider expanding. Maybe every week in the month of December you could have teased a upcoming legendary player. And then also a small sub point is that I wouldn't let wanting to miss one or two big plays keep you from starting to release the players. Because even if you told us, hey, these are 8 of the 10 players that are going to be in the drop, 2 we're going to reserve, or 2 we're just not going to tell you about. I just think the more information and potentially even more lead-in time, the community would actually like more.
Okay, yeah, I think that's really fair. I obviously can't say like if we would change it, but I can pass that on. And I think it's one of those things, like you said, you alluded to before, we've done stuff like that. Like my favorite thing from a collector point of view was when we had like multiple people in the community, like I guess like influencers and creators would like reveal one of the moments, and it would like, I love the idea. I don't know, just brainstorm here of like saying, okay, there's 20 moments in the next drop, and we're going to pick 20 people, and each person can reveal that. They can like tweet out the video reveal at the same time, and maybe we pick those 20 people. Like you would have to opt in, and if you're like, if you own like 20 LeBrons and there's a new, like, I don't know, or like the most amount of LeBrons and there's a new LeBron moment, like we pick from that group. I don't know if this makes sense. So say like we take the top 100 LeBron collectors and we say, okay, we pick one at random. If you want, you can reveal a new moment on stream. We don't tell you what it is until you've been picked, but that's how we do it. Like this is just an idea. Don't think it's going to happen. Like at least not for the next drop. That would be insane to pull off in such short notice. But like in terms of like as a concept to use the community's sort of passion for the community, I think it is possible, and I think we will explore it. I just don't think it's been a priority because when you extend a campaign in a lead up, it means you extend the scope of work and you extend the scope of like prioritization that campaign needs. And I think there's other things that we can do alongside it that are also needing a lot of prioritization and focus. But I definitely note the feedback, mate, for sure.
Awesome. Well, good suggestion, DRLB, and good explanation too, Luke. So we've got non-fungi. You want to go next? Non-fungi.
Yeah, how you doing? Can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear. Go ahead, non-fungi.
Oh, okay, great. Thanks, Luke, for taking the time out. By the way, I just had really a quick question around like real life, like utility and whatnot. I'm really excited about Top Shot and have been in for a while, and obviously love collecting moments. But you know, I really would love the idea of being able to, like, you know, as a fan, be able to use my moments, whether that's, you know, for going to games or being able to use it in regards to maybe getting some discounts on like League Pass or something within like the NBA fandom. So I just wondered if, you know, that's something that Top Shot is thinking about. I know it's something that I've heard, but just didn't know like how far that can extend, you know, when it comes to like the partnership you guys have with the NBA.
What do you mean? In what sense? Like extend in what sense?
Just meaning like you know, like
IRL activation sort of thing. Like
yeah, just meaning like you know, like I said, like if collector score was somehow like mixed in with, you know, getting discounts or being able to, like I said, get maybe some sort of discount on League Pass or being more engaged in just what the NBA has to offer with, you know, based on like the moments and whatnot that we collect.
Yeah, I see. I mean, so like, I feel like we've already seen that, and it's I talked about this a little bit, so I'm repeating myself, but we have seen that where we did like the Bucks activation, the WNBA finals, the what do you call it, the draft pick, Isis and Lock, like those things have all done really well, and they involve us working with those teams, and they involve the NBA to some degree. I'm not on partnerships team, so I don't know exactly, but like they've been a success for like all parties. Like, there's no reason we wouldn't continue to explore that. And I don't want to go too much of a tangent here, but this is something that I am so glad you asked about because I'm super excited about. But like, we now have a way as a like the culture of the US and I know we're an international product and platform, but I mean in the US itself, we now have a way for sports brands, sports teams to easily identify who are their biggest like collectors in a way that never existed with sports cards. Like it just never existed, right? But now we can actually point at the blockchain and we're like, this person right here has owned every moment from every player multiple times. He's completed the team set. He's owned any time your players mentioned. He's got that moment. Like, that's incredible. To give you a real tangible example of how teams and players in the NBA can react to that, the Talk and WNBA group in the Top Shot Discord banded together to list out every single moment where Diamond DeShields was in the moment. Not even just like it was her moment, but she was in the background and she was the side of it. And then what we saw was her, like, I don't know, her friend, publicist, agent, I don't know. He took that and he sent that directly to her. And like, that's incredible that she can be like the community to player interaction there has never existed before, in my opinion, where they could be like, look at these things we collect. you're in it. This is awesome. We want to show you. She can see it and respond back to them. Like, I think that's incredible. And I think we will see that build out and expand more and more, because there's no stakeholder that doesn't want to see that expansion happen. There's no reason NBA teams don't want to be able to celebrate their biggest fans. There's no reason collectors. Sorry, I got a message. There's no reason collectors don't want to see it happen, because that's awesome for the platform. And there's no reason why we as a company and a team don't want to see it happen. So there's no like hard blockers there other than just time and work and getting it done. You know.
That makes sense. Well, I appreciate you, clarifying that, and that's all I really wanted to know. That it's something that you guys are still looking to expand. But one last thing I just kind of wanted to mention too was that I think maybe a good addition is like when I complete like any sets, S2 set or like let's say full team sets, I do think it'll be a cool thing if like you could actually click on it and see what moments you own within that set. Like when you click on the full team set option, like there's no way you can click on it once you've completed it to just look at all of the moments you have in the serial.
Bro, that's such a good point. Yo, wait, I'm gonna forget just because I got like when I jump off this, I'm going like straight out for beer. I'm going out for beers. I already said it now. Can you DM me that so that I've got that like to reference? Is that all right, mate? Because I don't want to forget when I like leave the spaces.
Yeah, for sure.
I really appreciate that.
But I think it could be cool. One step further too. Like if other people that go to your profile can click on it and see the serial numbers you have within that set too. But yeah, I'll shoot that to you.
Yeah, completely agree. Awesome suggestion right there. I didn't even realize like that. Not that we could do it, but that we should do that. I hadn't even thought about that. Okay, go on, Tandy. Let me know who's next.
Yeah. All right. So we got Edge. Go ahead, Edge. Speed round with Luke.
All right, Luke, real quick. So just listening to your discussion on collectors, I think it all boils down to me. Like, I'm a collector, but I'm also an investor, like someone mentioned earlier. And what really gave me confidence in the whole platform, renewed confidence, because I held all through the summer. I did the Cool Cats Master Challenge, did all that stuff, and just kept the faith. And then we had a little bit of a bump in October, and the Run It Backs came, and everybody was super hyped. And then all of a sudden, the sell-off came, and the undercutters came, and then it made me question, like, am I overestimating the amount of collectors on the platform? And is that something that you guys have pretty concrete data on, where you realize these accounts are collectors versus the quote unquote rent seekers that we saw, especially in February and March? And I guess was the Run It Back, Archive, Vintage Vibes, the mint counts, and some of the redundancy with some of the players, was that all based on information you guys had, thinking there was more collectors on the platform than there were, or was it designed to accommodate future collectors 2-3 years down the line? Thank you.
You said thank you. I think it's a bit of both, right? You have to always be forward thinking. But like we have said, we're building this platform to be multi-generational, but like there's always trade-offs to be made. So I would say it's a bit of both. And like, let's be frank here, no one can predict what we're going to see in terms of the growth of new collectors. So no one can predict the explosion in January, February to happen the way it did. No one can predict what's going to happen this January and February. We can try and plan it, and the difference now is we have scaled up a team. So I alluded to this new hire recently. Rohan talked about her in AMA. You're going to hear a lot of people at Dapper and Top talking about it because she's awesome, Janie, and she's building out like a team. She's like the head or VP of growth, and she's got years of experience. So that's like a whole new level of expert on the team. So when we start talking about, we can put her in touch with the team, like the Economist and the Live Ops team. So when they're minting moments, and they're like, hey, we're going to mint this amount because we were given these numbers, Janie can look at it and be like, okay, I would actually use these numbers, and then we can adjust and adapt. So it is a bit of a process still of, getting that right. And I actually think for the next decade, the next 2-3 decades, that will be a back and forth process, because like you can never know what changes are going to happen. Like you never know, because Top Shot, it's undeniable. If you try to learn about NFTs, you're going to learn about Dapper Labs, you're going to learn about Flow, you're going to learn about Top Shot, right? So like it's really hard to know, because we have to try and also measure how much NFTs as a general culture and group will grow. So we might decide, we wouldn't, but like imagine we said, okay, we don't want to actively market the next 3 months, and we don't want any user growth. Like imagine we said that, but then for whatever reason, NFTs just went like viral again, or continued, let's say, and then we would still see loads of growth, because we are a big player, and I say we, Top Shot and Dapper are a big player in the NFT space. So it's really like hard to ever accurately predict and guess numbers. So it's important for us that that is a factor, but it's not the only factor. We also have to think of the current collectors as well. Is that going to help? I mean, like, this is a question about future growth numbers, so it's always going to get a vague answer. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying. I think the hesitation I had, and again, I've continued to buy. I'm continuing to hold. I'm going to complete the run it
Good
back
evening,
set.
man.
It was my senior year of high school. I
Evening,
feel
fellow Top
obligated
Shots.
to finish it, but it just made me a little bit. It just made me question whether these decisions were kind of like a, grit your teeth and just kind of take the hate that's going to come from over minting, quote unquote, knowing that in 2-3 years, maybe not knowing, but anticipating the collectors coming over from cardboard, or just, kids growing
That
up,
cardboard hill,
where they're able to purchase, and they're a little more in tune with some of these more current players. I guess that was the main part of the question, was just that, like, was it just flippantly like, okay, 990 we're going to do, and then we're going to have all these other players that have the same players in the archives and all this stuff, and we're going to get criticism for it, and that's fine. We'll live with it because we know that this is the right play for the long term. And if
You
that's
need your eye
the
check.
case, great. If it was just a decision that was a mistake, like the Seeing Stars and All Stars that Spence mentioned earlier, if it was a repeat of that mistake, that worries me. But if you're able to look at data and say, okay, we've got this many collectors on the platform right now, we anticipate this many by 2023, 2025, whatever. I think if you I know that's communicated, but as someone asked earlier, if there was data to put out that kind of backed up some of these decisions as far as the supply goes. But that's all I had. I appreciate your time, and I'll let somebody else go. Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate that, mate, for sure. I think you hit the nail on the head there, and it's a difficult topic for me to talk about in depth because it's so much internal process, but trust me, it's definitely not flippant.
Excuse me, wait, I'll take Kyle's got his hand up.
Yeah, bro, what's the Baron noise? He wants to. I've probably got another 5-10 minutes. I know some people have been waiting, so Tandy, let me know. He's gonna throw the heat at me.
Yeah. Well, I see Kyle's been waiting for a while. A couple people were talking out of turn. I had to remove you, but you can come back. Just speak when it's your turn. Kyle, go ahead.
Cool. Thanks, Luke, and thanks for listening to everything. Quick question: has Top Shot thought at all about raising the collector score for some of the legendary moments to kind of even out the collector score you can gain by stacking moments versus the collector score you get by collecting a legendary moment? I heard you say that those moments are supposed to be kind of like the coolest, right? The hard thing is that they're becoming uncool or unpopular because instead of spending $1,000 on one of those, you could spend $1,000 and get your collector score to 5,000, stacking a bunch of Bobby Portis moments.
Throwing shade at Bobby Portis. I see how it is. Collector score, I definitely can't sit here and say this is what legendaries will be in the future and this is what they won't be. But it is an evolving process, and I hope this is aware for people. And if not, then please be aware that it's an evolving and ongoing process of changing and adjusting. And I think we could see it change again for next series. We could see legendaries be worth more. We could see the way, not it wouldn't, we're not going to do anything drastic where people feel like they've been completely undone. But we have said since the beginning, it was a bit of a, trial is a strong word. Again, you can check the blog where we introduced collector score. We kind of explain the concept a bit better, but we have built on it, and we will continue to build on it and adjust and change. And so, as we add more series, as we move down the line, we will be willing to go back and change those moments and adjust and tweak. But we're always going to do it from the mindset of making sure that the tweaks make sense. So that's kind of a vague answer. It's not a yes, it's not a no. It's in fact, you asked if it could. It definitely could change for sure. And I don't think it would make sense to give legendaries less collector score personally. So if it was changing, it would probably increase. But I would not purchase or trade or sell moments based on that information. I would stick to what's known about collector score. I wouldn't speculate on it because that's a very tricky one to speculate on, in my opinion. But yeah, definitely could change.
All right, thank you.
All right, freeze flow. You've been waiting. Go ahead.
Yeah, cheers. And Luke, thanks for your time. This has been wonderful. I'm a collector here in London, and sometimes those queues get pretty late. And I know that you guys have a lot of members or collectors in other parts of the world, like the Philippines, and a lot of people in Australia or wherever. And I know that a lot of people either stay up all night or they're unable to purchase a pack. I was just curious to know if in the spirit of growth, would you consider a different type of queue system, like where maybe a number is allocated to those people, not in your Pacific time zone, and then like they have to purchase a pack within a day or something. And then also, second question, it would be awesome to see more like real life utility, like perhaps the ability to like buy a pack at a game. I think that would be a pretty significant driver.
Yeah. Sorry, what was the last one? Packs at a game, like being able to open them. You mean, did you say purchase packs at a game?
Yeah, if you had like kiosks at certain games, or just some way of bringing Top Shot to the games, because I'd love to go to an NBA game. I potentially going to one in December, and I don't have a real way of like bringing my collection to that game.
Yeah, no, I get you. I think it's inevitable. I don't know if your version of that is inevitable in terms of like kiosks every game, but I think it's inevitable that we become more integrated with like NBA arenas and NBA as a fan live watching the game. Like the kiosk in Summer League was a lot of fun. Like it was awesome, and I think there was like a lot of data to learn from that, a lot of things to learn, but there was no doubt that it was an awesome experience. And so again, it's like the NBA teams, they can benefit from this because they can have fans collect in a whole new way and they can find their biggest fans. And Top Shot can benefit from this because we can get packs into the hands of more collectors. We can get more people checking out the platform. And collectors can benefit because they can be opening and buying and opening packs at games. Like there's no party there that loses out. It's similar to just working with teams more in general. It's the same when it comes to an arena, right? Like imagine if there's a Top Shot kiosk and it's like buy a beer, get a pack. Like the arena will love that, like buying about $20 beers, right? Like we sell more of them. That's amazing. Don't drink irresponsibly, people. So like I don't see why there would be a reason to not do it. I think it's just a case of time and the scope of work and making sure that when it's done right. Because the Vegas Summer Kiosk was incredible, and I think it was done right. It's harder to do it right on a multi-arena across the country sort of setup. So I don't think it would be like a boom, now it's everywhere. I think it'd be like, let's experiment here, let's try there, and continue to do the Top Shot Dapper Labs approach of learning, iterating, and improving. I think that's the approach we'll see there, which is the downside of that is it is slower. The upside is that the end result is just it's incredible. So yes is what I would say with no like firm timeline or expectations. I just think it's inevitable.
Yeah, I would also just add in real quick as a very unofficial opinion from Dapper is that I think when I think about it, what made Vegas such an easier on ramp, I suppose, for a kiosk was that it was no particular team. It was a university arena or whatever it was, and so in my understanding, I think it kind of goes by the different arena and team agreements, which is why they can't just be popping up as quickly as maybe some people may have considered after seeing the Vegas event. Anyhow, Tea Time, you're next, and then go ahead, Tea Time.
Appreciate it. Luke, real quick question here for you. You jumped in earlier and you made a comment about not having been invited into the spaces and Top Shot wanting to be more part of these.
Don't call me out for that. No.
But this is actually no disrespect whatsoever. This is no disrespect. This is a genuine curiosity. Why hasn't Top Shot gathered some of these thought leaders and community leaders and brought them together to just as a coalition to deliver like a unilateral message to everybody, where we have like all these people right now, the sentiment is kind of down on the downswing, and it just feels like these are people that we all either respect or follow, and the more new users that come in, the more they start to echo the sentiments of these same people. Why isn't Top Shot gathering all these people in the same room or in the same, I don't know, Zoom or whatever you want to call it, and getting them all together and giving them that message?
So we are and we aren't. We aren't gathering them in a room to give them a message because I don't want to do that personally. I don't want to sit, Tandy, Judge, Dream, LG, Plunge Club. I don't want to sit them down and tell them a message. I want to sit them down and have them tell me what they're seeing and what they're hearing. And then we take that, we learn from that, and we give that message to the community at large. But like that does happen in terms of like chatting to, I don't want to call them thought leaders. I don't want to judge to get that ego boost, but we do chat to people we see creating content in this space. And I'm sure they'll be willing to confirm that. Like literally today, I said, let's chat. Like before this call, I said, let's chat on Friday. Like, let's get in a room. And it's not just Judge and Tandy. There's like anyone who you can see who's in our Discord with the content creator role. I try and have this chat with them once a month. And it's nothing crazy. Like, it's not like it's less intense than this chat, but it's a space where I just sit down with them. And I'm like, I want everyone to have the opportunity to directly give me feedback, comments, concerns. And also like, you know, for this Friday, I'll probably talk a little bit about the Top Shot Thanksgiving giveaway we did, where I worked with a bunch of those same people, where I just said, hey, do you want to give some packs away? So I can gather some feedback and they can say what was good and bad about that. And I can learn from that for next time. So like, it's very much a reflective feedback session. And anyone who's a content creator, obviously they're not going to sit there and have like much to share with you, because it is very much like the things that we're talking about in the spaces, they talk about directly to myself, and others in the team will be listening in. So that does happen for sure.
Appreciate your time, Luke. Thank you very much.
No worries. And by the way, I do love suggestion, and that's why we're already doing it. So that's just one of those things that we don't scream about, because it's weird to say, look how great we are, we listen to you. Even though I've just done that, but that's because you asked. But like, I feel confident that like Tandy and Judge, they're both speakers at the moment. I feel like confident they will say, if we ever want to speak to the team, we can reach out to Luke and it can happen. Both of them have had, guest speakers on. Maybe not as much as they would want. Maybe we need to do better, but we've definitely moved in that direction. I think that's fair to say.
And I would say in the theme of kind of moving forward in a positive direction, even this right now is a really great thing that we can hopefully make somewhat semi-regular, because obviously this is providing a lot of value to a lot of people. Judge, I know you got your hand up, but I wanted to let one new voice come on. Logan, go ahead. And
how dare you, Tandy? I can't believe it.
Outrage.
Go ahead, Logan.
Appreciate it. So I think we all, collectors here are looking for like the long-term view of things. Like, Top Shot's got a plan. We want to trust you guys and everything like that. They got a holistic view of the whole situation. But then you look at a situation with the run it back and archive moments, where you could have had a whole equal playing field on team set completions and stuff like that. Because that's like the new big thing that I think a lot of people are waiting on, is the rewards from team set benefits and completions. But now you have a Thunder set that only a very, very few people can complete, compared to like the Hornets and Timberwolves that thousands and thousands of people can complete. So I guess that's my whole concern of the rewarding these people that have completed the team sets and everything like that. How are you going to have that equal to each fan base? And like, was that ever discussion? Because that could have been, settled with the whole run it back to drop and the archive moments. That could have been a whole equal playing field for everything. But then that wasn't addressed, it seems like.
Well, that's because like when it comes to rewarding fandom, it's not as black and white as like, oh, we're just going to reward them team sets. And it's also not as black and white as we're going to reward them once and that's it. So like it is going to be a continuous evolving process. And like, my opinion is, if someone like, I don't think we should necessarily reward fans of teams or collectors who are also fans of teams in the same way every time. So like, one of the things we talked about is like, maybe let's say we decided to airdrop the people that are holding a team set, like a series 2, like we did the full team set airdrop. Like, that's kind of cool. I don't think that means the next time we reward team sets should be the same way. Maybe the next time, and this is, again, please no one run with this. I don't want that. But maybe the next time we say, okay, let's find someone who's a Lakers, like let's reward people who are fans of the Lakers, like they've chosen to be fans of the Lakers, and then reward them based on their collector score of Lakers moments, or based on how many Lakers moments they own. And then you could do it on a per team basis to do it in a way that's fair and consistent. So maybe the bar of collector score for Lakers is different to the bar of collector score for like Magic, right? And my point of expressing this isn't because we're going to do that. It's because there's variable ways to reward different team collections that can account for that differences outside of just Series 1, Series 2, and full team set. Now, doesn't mean we won't also reward that, but we can be varied in our reward. That's the amazing thing. Again, I've said this a few times, but being on the blockchain, it's not that hard to pull that data and figure it out. Like, again, you could go to Live Token and be like if he had the time and energy and I don't know, he wanted to, he could probably figure out a fan-made awesome way to show you the top 10 fans or like the top 30 fans for each team, whatever you wanted to do, which didn't just based off collector score or just based off team set completion. And the reason I'm choosing him is because you can see his data. Like, he's probably already done something like that. And I think we'll see more and more of that happen from Top Shot itself over the next 6 to 12 months, because collector score was never meant to be the only way to reward collectors. It's meant to be one way of measuring your collector sort of fandom, if I can say that, you know? So I really appreciate the question. And I know it's a horrible answer, but I honestly say I wouldn't worry about it. Like, we're aware that can happen, that could be an issue. So that won't happen. Like, we will always be considerate of how you correctly reward fandom across different fandoms.
I'd kill. That makes sense about how there's a workaround with that and everything like that. It just seems like there was a chance to make it an evil playing field, like where you could have 275 max for each team, you know, and there could only be those collectors, and you reward those collectors with, you know, people want seats, people want real life experiences, they want signed jerseys, they want stuff like that. I think that's what's missing, and that's just kind of what we're all waiting for.
Yeah, mate, those things can definitely happen. Even that, what I'm saying is those things can happen regardless of whether or not there's a cap of 275 or whatnot. You know, it's just how it happens may vary and it may be adjustable, but it can definitely happen for sure. And in my opinion, it definitely will. Like, I don't know when it will, I don't know how it will, but I feel confident we will see that happen, because who wouldn't want that? Why would a fan not want to be able to collect moments to unlock some awesome merch or tickets? Why would Top Shot not want to be able to reward fans? And why would a team not want to know that the person who's getting that jersey for free or getting those tickets for free is literally willing to drop hundreds of dollars to collect those moments, or willing to do whatever to show their fandom? Like, it's just a win-win for all parties.
Absolutely. Appreciate your time.
No worries, mate.
All right. How are we doing on time, Luke?
Look, I mean, I'd already delayed my plans a little. If there's anyone else who's not spoken and wants to, I'm willing to take a question. And the reason I say anyone else is just because, like, I don't want to, like, me and Judge and Tandy can speak at length of the time. So if anyone else wants to jump up, Tandy, I'm happy to take up more questions.
All right. Well, I see. It looks like Anna's got one more question, and other than that, it looks like we hit almost everybody. So,
good 2 hours right there. Go on, Anna. Anna's questions are fun as well. I like Anna.
Anna's questions are easy.
They're not. No, but they're not just easy. They're a little bit different. I mean, I bet she's gonna hit me with like a curveball now, and
yeah, she's gonna be like, "Tell me why you oversaturated my favorite team moments." All right, go ahead, Anna.
Well, I wasn't really gonna ask you a question. I was just gonna say, I mean, because since you said you had like 5 minutes left, I was just gonna say, we really appreciate you here in the space, Luke, and all the information you gave us. Like, we really appreciate it. And I know that sometimes, like, we can frustrate you, and we just really appreciate all the research and hard work you've done. So I know that, like, some people, like me, can not always, may not always say that to other people. So, yeah, I just want to say that.
Well, that's awesome. Thank you. I really appreciate that. That was really cool, because obviously a lot of the time, especially when things are a little bit heated at the moment, you don't always get the positive feedback, but I do appreciate it. Honestly, the people that deserve the feedback, the people that you don't see, the people that are like the engineers, the marketing team, the people that are like even on the community team, there's people you guys don't know about, you don't realize, who are doing like the social media side of things. They're working on our streams. They're doing so much video editing and so much video work. And I can't stress enough how valuable these people are to the team. And I kind of just want to scream about them all the time, but it's weird to do, because then everyone's like, why are you talking about your team and not the platform and the product? But like, they're awesome. I've been doing this thing where I do like a daily Dapper shout out. I've not done it daily. I've been doing it kind of when I can. But so I recommend, when I shout someone out, it's because I really like working with them, and they probably do really cool stuff. And I've got so many more people to shout out, but definitely check them out if you want to see more about like what's going on. Not like sort of sneaky news, but if you want to know, like, I wonder what the experience of their market guy is and where he comes from and what he thinks about, you can find out. Like, he's not going to drop alpha about Top Shot, but he might talk about, like, Arthur, for example, was the first one to tweet out the upgrade we did to the social share. When you share a moment on Twitter now, it kind of does this cool, you can play it in the tweet. And like, if you were following Alpha, you would have seen that like before that was properly live. And that's kind of the cool things that can happen. But otherwise, I appreciate your feedback. I just want to share it for the whole team. Thank you, Anna. And everyone listening, we can definitely do this again at some point. I want to shout, I don't know if Plunge is still here. I imagine he left a while ago now, but shout out Plunge for organizing it and Tandy for doing the follow-up. Everything I've said, other than where I've clearly stated his opinion, is more or less out there on our blogs, on the RIP videos, on our announcements. So I'm not trying to break news here. I'm just trying to remind people that like some of the questions and conversations, it can be easy to forget that they've been had before and they've been addressed before. Again, they're all really valid, but always remember, like, if you ever want to learn this stuff, reach out, because we might have already answered it and we just need to point you in the right direction. But yeah, is that cool, Tandy? Am I good to have my life back?
Yeah. I think that's okay. We'll let you go then, Luke. Thank you for making the time. I will now answer all questions related to Dapper Labs and Top Shot, if that's okay.
I'm going to pick Tandy to just be responsible. Everything he says is fact. No, look, guys, let's do this again at some point. All I ask is the next time all these amazing people are getting into spaces, you let the team know. We'll jump in. We'll chat about it. I get Jacob, I get Dave. We'll come in and we'll talk to you because we want to have these conversations for sure. So thank you, everyone, for listening. DMs are open. I appreciate you all. Go have a couple beers unless you're like under 18. And have a good evening, everyone.
Thank you so much, Luke. So Plunge is back. Thank you, Plunge, for starting this. I mean,
I just got home from picking up kids. Are we done? Can we let them go?
Plunge, I'm trying to get out.
Okay, get him out of here. Luke, drop off right now.
What? No, it's gonna get bad.
Drop off. Go get some lunch, dinner, whatever meal you've earned. But Tandy, I wanted to hop on and say thanks for taking it over. I got to hop out again, but I popped back in when I got home and realized you were still going, which is crazy. So, all right, I got to go.
Yeah, I think you started something interesting, Plunge. I don't know if we had this kind of a round table with like so many different collectors being able to interact with someone from Dapper before. So I hope we can see more of this in the future. I think it's a really positive thing. All right. Well, yeah. Go ahead, Plunge.
No, I was just gonna say, like, what office hours used to be, and I haven't been on for the last like hour and a half. So if this has already been covered, sorry. But what office hours used to be was a way for like them to address community feedback in like text to verbal form, and this is a different way of that. So obviously, like there is a huge challenge in a really delicate tightrope walk that guys like Luke and anybody that represents the Dapper or NBA Top Shot team have to walk when you're walking into an unknown, right? Like you don't know who's going to say what. You don't have a prepared answer for everything. They are not the White House press secretaries, right? Like they have to be able to be conscious of answering questions as best they can and maintaining some semblance of like, open-endedness with this. So, that said, I think he did an amazing job, and it was a really awesome opportunity, I think, for a lot of people to chime in. And I appreciate everybody being really respectful of everybody else. And, I know it's, emotional and it's challenging, but at the same time, I feel like everything that I listened to at least was really cool. So thanks for taking it on. I got to run, but yeah, we should definitely do it again, maybe sometime next week.
Awesome. All right. Well, unless anybody else has any final words, but other than that, I'm also going to run probably the next few minutes. Judge, you want to ask me your question?
Tandy, it's been hours. I've said so many questions. I don't even remember what my question was. Oh, I do. I remember. But I'm not sure if I think Luke may have bounced out. But I just want to say, look, man, I know, especially me, like I tend to ask some of the tougher questions that may seem more negative, but like that's just not the case. I mean, the reason I'm asking them is because we're all, I think me and everyone here, we're just also passionate about the project, about the platform, right? And we just wanted to be successful, and that's why this community is so great. I mean, we're all passionate, and we can have disagreements, but I think this is really, again, thanks to Plunge for setting this up. Thanks to Luke for hopping on and answering some tough questions. And I think, again, these conversations are, I just think they're such an important thing, especially when, as a community, we're a little bit frustrated right now, just to hear each other, right, and see that we all kind of want the same thing, and we may have slightly different ideas how to get there, but ultimately we're all on the same page, and we all want this. We all came together because we love this platform, we love the product, and we all want to be successful. So I'm just all in favor of doing as many of these as we can to hear different voices and hear from obviously the Top Shot team would be great, but just again letting us as a community hear each other, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's okay to, if we're venting frustration at times, I think that's okay to do, because we're doing that from a place that ultimately stems from the fact that we love the product, and that's why we're doing it. We want to succeed, and I think that's super important. And I think we discussed earlier on the call about being patient, and it's hard. It's I know I struggle with it, to be patient in this NFT space. But I think one way that we can be patient is if we all band together to keep reminding ourselves, look, this is a longer term thing. And again, if we can just try together as a community to come up with ways to keep the platform exciting and do things while we're waiting for the Top Shot team to kind of come through. And I think, again, this community is so smart and so innovative that if we just took each other's ideas, I think we could find ways to stay engaged, stay excited, and bring some of that coolness back that we talked about during this spaces.
Yeah, and I think it's a blend there of like the community creating things, and also people from Dapper being able to hear us. I think that's such a big thing, honestly. Just the communication side, it means so much. So that's why I think this was a really great thing that we were able to do tonight, and I really do hope we can do it again. Top Shot Tony, did you want to say something?
Yeah, it's Top Shot Tony. Thanks for finally letting me come in here and say a few things. First, I want to address three things. One, I noticed we dropped a ton of packs this week. Are we going to finally start talking about how there's too many packs? Two, I saw that it's sold out. So that means there's not enough packs for people to get. Are we going to start talking about how there's not enough packs left? And third, the last thing I just want to say, and I would love for Dumbo to finally weigh in on something. I would love to hear. I saw that both Bitcoin and ETH are down a little bit. I want to know, what is Top Shot doing about that? Are you guys going to bring that up? Like, how are we going to stimulate that? So feel free to kind of come. Actually, you know what? I've been perusing all these different Discords while we've been doing this therapeutic session for the last 9.5 hours. And I finally compiled all of the tough questions that somebody has the stones to ask, okay? And Judge, please do not chime in for this, okay? I'm looking for Dumbo here.
I was just about ready to. I'm not. I'm out.
I fully take blame for the dip. It was 100% me. I'm the cause of the Bitcoin ETH dip. Sorry, mate.
Right? Honestly, it's just nice to hear somebody accept responsibility.
Bro, I was cracking up. The moment you started talking, I was in tears. Dr. Tony, best person in the space. End of.
Well, I refuse to break character on this account, so I will leave the rest of the time for the judge.
Well, it looks like we got one more guy who's smelling something. So, Smelling Cool, why don't you take us out?
Yo, just while we're waiting for him to come up, the marketplace is now back online. It's been announced right now. Sorry, guys. Just so people aren't missing it.
There you go. Breaking news.
In light of this unbelievable best Twitter spaces of all time, we all will now buy what? What are we all buying? An S1 debut. Luke, tell us what to buy. We will all buy that
don't get me in the ultimate form of trouble by pumping him in.
And I think Top Shot Tony will pay for it. I heard he just told me.
Yeah,
well.
actually,
Wow.
everyone just DM him how much he owes you, and I'm sure he'll sort it out.
Yeah, if you send Top Shot Tony Venmo requests, he just clicks accept without checking them. So make sure to do that, and then just buy whatever you need.
I just had to jump back in. I was listening, sorting out the maintenance announcement, and I heard that. I was like, I got to jump back in. It was too funny. Shout out to Team Hold over there. I think if you're not checking out Team Hold, they do some awesome stuff. Shout out to Judge as well. His stream's pretty cool. Plunge's stream's pretty cool. I see Veerman has joined the chat. Which I'm glad is happening as I'm leaving, because he would be bringing the fire questions. Which, in seriousness, if you don't follow Steve, you're missing out. He's got some really good insight that, sometimes it's harsh, but it's always real. So definitely check it out. I'm going to drop them again for the second time. But thank you, everyone.
All right, thanks, Luke. All right, Smelling Cool, what's going on? Why don't you chime in?
So what's going on? I'm trying to ask a question. I saw on Sunday got email said something about the NFL doing a Top Shot Is they teaming up with NBA Top Shot, or they doing their own separate thing?
All right, so Dapper Labs has NBA Top Shot, and they later on, about a year later, they are going to be releasing the NFL product, which is NFL All Day. So if you want to get on that wait list, just Google NFL All Day, and you can probably put your email down there and get on a wait list.
Cause we're gonna buy it at the same place at the NBA Top Shot, or you buy it from a whole different place?
So you can use the same wallet. You use your Dapper wallet, and then you can use the funds that are in that Dapper wallet to purchase moments from or packs from Top Shot or from NFL All Day. It's a wallet that you'll be able to use on either site.
Okay, that's all the questions I had. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Well, folks, it's pretty late over here. Unless you guys want to keep us going for another 2 hours, I can make someone a co-host.
Tandy, it's embarrassing. You're wearing down after like 3 hours. I mean, Jesus. We need a real host.
It's like 12:20 a.m. where I am, and I got to wake up to take my kid to school. So that's my excuse. Judge, you want to be co-host? I'll make you co-host.
I mean, I got to go live with our stream now. I got to stream now, and our stream, we're gonna break this whole spaces down. This was a great thing.
I know this honestly felt like something new, which is why I want to do this again, because I feel like too often people like you and I are just kind of recycling things, speculating on things.
Speak for yourselves, recycling things.
No,
I'm never.
talking.
I mean, Zakarian, come on, we don't recycle anything. Veerman, can you believe this Tandy guy? Come on.
Yeah, I know. Zakarian goes on every day. He's got something new every single day, obviously. I'm the one who's just recycling old takes constantly. But this gives a good opportunity to get some real, unique dialogue going. And unfortunately, Veerman came in literally 5 minutes and 5 minutes into the 3-hour stream. It's 5 minutes till the end here, but yeah.
I will say the coolest thing about the spaces, right, is like when we're streaming or whatever, we don't get to hear from the community. Like it's just us talking, and like I think it's just so beneficial to hear the other voices and to get their. I know you guys are probably like, well, the judge doesn't shut up, so what are you talking about? But I think it's just so cool to hear again from the community and like actually hear their voices, and that was again the coolest part for me about the spaces.
100%, and all different types of collectors, newbies. The middle class is something that's being coined nowadays. Everybody. And now we got whale noises coming over there from Steve, but his mic's not on. But I'm sure he's making whale noises in his living room. But yeah, you make a good point, Judge, which is that if this was your Twitter Spaces, you could have 100 people in the room, but the only person that they'd be hearing would be you.
Yeah, you mean Twitch stream, but yeah, I get you. Oh, are you trying to make jokes? Oh, I get it, Tandy. I get it.
You'll get it when you're in the shower later.
I get it.
Anyhow, folks, I don't know what else to tell you. If there's anybody else that wants to say something, otherwise, I mean, I can make someone co-host if you guys want to keep this going, but I'm gonna step out in a sec.
And I'm to bounce too because I got to start my stream. I just want to say thanks to Plunge for starting this up. Thanks for Tandy for hosting. Thanks for Luke for coming up, and thanks for everyone who tuned in, who just came and whoever asked questions and spoke the entire time. And again, I do think this is what makes Top Shot stand out than any other NFT out there, right? The passion among the community, and like what other NFT? Like I know, look, I got a lot of other NFTs. I can't talk about my lazy lion for like 8 hours a day, but I could Top Shot. Right, and I do Top Shot talk that much about it. So, and I think again, it's such a unique and special product, and it's just cool to be a part of this community with everyone here. So, thanks, guys.
Yeah, I 100% agree with everything you just said, Judge. Ups and downs, but it stays interesting. That's for sure. Anyhow, thank you everybody for being here, and let's do it again another time. And thanks again, Plunge, for setting it up, and thanks again, Luke, for coming and taking a beating. We appreciate that. So, but taking a beating graciously, and also offering a lot of valuable information at the same time. No alpha to get us all rich, but still good information. All right, guys. Well, I'm gonna close out here, but okay. There's one last person here. Go ahead, NFT. Then I'll close out. Got a pixelated superhero. Venom. I don't recall which is that. That's not Venom, is it? Go ahead, NFT. You want to say something? Maybe he may have fat fingered it. Okay then. Well, thanks guys. Thank you for coming in here, and thank you for being a part of this. This was really awesome, and I hope we can do it again soon. So take care. Bye bye.